All right, y'all. Welcome to another edition of All Politics of Local America's
Number one.
number one political hip hop radio talk show. Y'all know if it's Friday and it's 6 o'clock, y'all know it's time for All Politics of Local, America's number one political hip hop radio talk show. So tonight we're gonna have a jam packed show as usual. We're gonna try and revisit a couple of guests that should have been on, but unfortunately had some scheduling problems. So tonight we're going to talk to our brother about prison reform. We're going to talk to Umar Dillard, who's going to be up first. We're going to talk to him about prison reform, and then of course we're going to talk to coming behind them. You want to talk about who those folks are going to be, brother Zaid?
Oh, man, the great. Let me see. Yeah, the great cook. I was muted. I'm sorry. The great cookie Rivera is going to join us with Nafeesah Goldsmith, New Jersey Prison Watch. They both just did a very powerful press conference and rally a couple days ago about the madness that's going on at Essex County Jail. The young brother was killed in custody. Another brother was beaten horribly on videotape. And the oversight and management is it appears to be terrible. The civilian oversight also is seems highly questionable, to put it mildly. I commend these sisters for what they did. They also earlier in the year led the charge to expose what's happening in Edna Mahan Correctional Facility, the only women's facility we have in Jersey, and that's about to get closed down as a consequence of exposing this. We got two strong sisters coming up on the question of prison reform and prison justice at 6:30.
And then, of course, coming up at 8 o'clock, we're going to talk to some authors about some of the children books that they wrote. We're going to talk to our brother Muta El-Amin. We're going to talk to him. We're going to talk to Farasha Green. We're going to talk with her. And, of course, we're going to talk to Jax Lakes. That book that you see behind me, I'm Bigger. Just had an opportunity to read that book. Fabulous book, real positive, real encouraging. So we're going to talk to them. So that should be a great conversation with our brother John Austin, who's going to pop back in, and then of course at 8:30 to 9, we're going to have DJ Rhino, as usual, come through and do the review and hip hop for the week. Talk to us about everything that's going on. I did hear some sad news in regards to that brother who they're charging about the concert that I heard that he has. He's been charged with a number of those charges in terms of those folks. So hopefully we can get an update on that from DJ Rhino
Yeah,
in terms
yeah,
of what's going on with that.
indeed.
So is our guest Umar Johnson, Umar Johnson, Umar Dillard? Is he in the back at this point, or is he running late?
We got
Brother
to get
Zai?
Omar Johnson on too. By the way, we
Yeah,
almost had him.
yeah,
We almost had him a couple months ago. I got to get back to him.
yeah. So even though it might be a Freudian slip, we might be speaking it into existence.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Brother's got to get ready to open a school down in Delaware.
yeah, yeah. Should be an interesting conversation to get in touch with him, you know, to talk about that. Is our first guest running late tonight, Brother Zaid?
I don't know. I don't say. This is Madam Donna Kay connected with our brother. I don't know where she's at with that.
Okay, okay, all right. Well, let's what we can do is talk about until hopefully he shows up and get in the background. And of course, if Brother Emmanuel sees him, Brother
Yeah.
Emmanuel, you can just bring him in. But Zaid, let's talk a little bit about a couple of things I saw, um, that's going on, and I sent this to Larry about some of the Republicans are actually going door to door at some of the Republican states, and are actually trying to get people on the record in regards to people who voted and people who are claiming that they voted twice, right? And so they're trying to justify, and then asking them also who did they vote for to try and justify Donald Trump have not lost the race. That in fact that the election was stolen from him, and they're trying to get people on the record so they can create these affidavits around that. Have you heard about that?
No, but this is the ploy that Trump used when he was running for president. He's revisiting it now, right? This ploy is we're familiar with this ploy, right? This is his notion of trying to create or establish what he is calling voter fraud, which is what it really is.
That's right.
It's an attempt to create the conditions to justify the voter purging that they're doing, right? By using this creating this narrative that some people are voting twice. We have to use these techniques that have been used by a number of Republican state houses, and the most famous one, of course, is the one in Georgia, where the governor of Georgia, who was a former Secretary of State, purged over 1 million black and brown voters in Georgia on his way to stealing the state house from our sister Stacey Kemp. So this is what this is. This is they're trying to put boots on the ground in a very backward way to try and recreate this narrative to justify the gerrymandering, the redistricting they're doing, and try all in the name of what they call voter fraud. But the fraud is what they're doing. The fraud is their total disregard for what's left of the Voting Rights Act, and their total disdain for black and brown voters in this country. That's what that
is. And that's very serious because
it's very serious.
Yeah. Because if you think about it, Brother Zaid, everybody knows that next year is going to be the year of decision, particularly in politics, right? We were having that conversation with Congressman Payne last week, and everyone knows that that the Democrats cannot afford to lose the House, right? And so, excuse me. So if you have all of these folks that are now organizing to purge voters from the roll, and at the same time began to do gerrymandering and start organizing their folks to come out and vote. And remember, Republicans have already made a declaration that says that they don't ever plan on losing any other races, right? So, and what is one way that they can ensure that that doesn't happen? Well, one of the ways you do that is you begin to organize to begin to cheat, right? And so, how do you do that? You do that based on some of the things that they're trying to put in place right now, right? You begin to do that, and so I think that we have to be and I'm saying we, meaning the Black community, we have to become mindful of what's going to take place, and we have to organize, and that's why, Brother Zaid, why the National Black Political Convention becomes important. Because one of the things that Mitty said to me was, he said, not only do we have to vote and elect people from our community, but we also have to make those people from our community responsible to the needs and concerns of the people in that community. And remember, that's exactly what Malcolm said Black nationalism is, right?
Ballot or the bullet. That's right.
I mean, he said nationalism was nothing more, nothing less, other than making the people you elect responsible to the voters, right? That's Black nationalism, right? And so folk want to make it something other than it is. But that's what Mitty said to me. Mitty said that we've got to talk about this at the convention, man, about making these folks responsible, right, to our community. So, but that's what we have to begin to do.
Absolutely.
Same way you have Trump and them organizing, Trump creating his own media network right now, so that he can pump that out 24/7 in terms of what their ideals are. We have to do that, and that's why when we come together at the convention, right, we have to bring some of the best minds that we can organize and begin to talk about that, and then put together an agenda that we can give back to whatever party we want to give it to. But we also have to keep in mind that we have to begin to vote our interests and be clear about that.
That's right. When the Black political agenda took place back in '72. We had a newfound access to the ballot in our hand, and the motion of the day was clearly forward. It was a progressive trend in terms of the political motion in the country and the political motion in the world. Right now, we're at a crossroads as to whether or not the trend is going to continue inching forward in a progressive way on the heels of the Biden election, or will it go backwards by virtue of the right wing seizing the time after the Biden win to take back the Congress and to move things back. They've already stolen the Supreme Court, right?
Right.
This is a very critical time. So, and I'm saying that to say, and I'm glad, so glad you raised the question about. I was trying to reach Mama Mina Baraka shortly before we got on the air, because when she came to our press conference, that's the one thing that she insisted that we make sure it's taken care of. Is the question of the ballot? You mentioned Larry Ham, January 15th, the next birth anniversary of Dr. King, the focal point of the annual march of the People's Organization for Progress is doing is going to be on the ballot. So the ballot is definitely under siege, and the attack on the ballot is a soft attack on the Black community.
That's
right.
right.
What do I mean? Right? The attack on the Capitol was an attack on the voting process right at the seat of government. These folks are mobilizing again, and they are armed.
Right.
Let me be clear about that. They're armed,
right.
and if they feel that they can put themselves in a position where they can actually start something of an armed kind and start attacking people in a direct way, do not think that they're not. If they were capable of storming the United States Capitol building in full session on national TV in the heart of the day, like it was nothing wrong with what they were doing.
So Zaid, the revolution will be televised. It will be televised.
Well, the counter revolution. We're talking about counter revolution. Be clear about that. We ain't talking about revolution. We're talking about counter revolution, right?
Right.
And there's a big difference, right? So, and I'm glad you're with us, Madam Donna, because this is definitely a part of the terrain that you've been walking for a good minute. But
by the way, Donna,
it's a dangerous moment. So there's no time for bystander. We really got to get our young folks to understand how critical this moment is too, because it was young folks that made the difference in the '60s on the question of the ballot, and in the end, with their own lives in a very serious way that has to be reappreciated and reappraised. Go ahead, Madam Donna. You back in there with us.
No, I was just listening to what you're saying. We're right on the heels of the anniversary, if shall we call it the anniversary of January 6th. And as you were stating, was that just a test run to see how far they would go, how it would be perceived in the eyes of the public, and what's next? What is next to come? And we shouldn't take it lightly. We should not take it lightly. And how dismissive those in leadership were, and how I guess they can control the media in the sense of saying you didn't see what you saw it. You saw it, but you didn't really see it. And that was amazing to me. And that it's almost, if anybody can remember the movie, like the Stepford Wives, and they were almost like zombie-ish, if you will, that they were just controlled. And if I can remember, by media source. And I think that's was, that everybody saw it, but they were told, no, you didn't see it. So they began to repeat, no, we didn't see what we know what we saw. So it's amazing.
And dangerous.
Remember,
it's dangerous, not amazing. You're right. It's very dangerous.
And also remember, these people didn't show up at the Capitol empty-handed. They showed up with their weapons, right? And they had inside help.
Yes, they did.
So let's remember that they had a lot of people working with them. They had the FBI, the CIA, the military. Nobody went into action while these people were making their move on the Capitol, right? And remember, these people are implanted all over the place. So I mean, and that was just a test run, right? These people got the Supreme Court behind them, right? These people got elected officials with them, and so all of these people are well insulated right now to make another move on this government to create anarchy. I'm simply saying that I think black folk, right? What we've got to do is, and y'all know this is true. What we've got to do as black folks is not be lulled to sleep, right?
Absolutely.
Because when things are quiet, you know how black folk are. We have a tendency to think everything is all right, everything is good, right? Because ain't nobody making no noise. Nah, everything ain't good. I'm telling y'all that people organizing, people are planning, right? People understand that the power base in this country is politics. And that's what they're organizing to be able to take power back and to never lose that power again. We have to begin to think seriously and critically about what are our interests and then how are we going to move that forward. And then, I mean, I still hear Miriam in my head where he
Right.
says we've got to focus on those 27 states where black people populate. And in those 27 states or those cities. Now I do understand what Mayor Baraka told us when he said that yes, the voting makeup in some of those states have changed. That's true. However, when we do populate, we've got to organize to seize power in those
That's
communities.
right. Yeah, and then in addition to that, I mean, this whole thing about we really need, we really got to look at. I mean, the Democratic Party, if it's got any sense left in its tank, should right away have made the question of voting rights a priority, right? And that bill sitting there,
Mm-hmm.
not moving in Congress, should be made into law. And the question of using the Justice Department to challenge this racist redistricting that they're trying to do in these state houses should be very aggressive. It should, and oh Joe Biden himself needs to be more vocal about how fundamental this vigilance ought to be for the protection of democracy, solely on the basis of nothing else, not just because the black vote saved his behind, yeah, but because the very sanctity of what he's trying to do as in managing a government was threatened on January 6th, if for no other reason than that. And then one thing too that we need to be very careful about too is that the prosecutions that are taking place, right, of these folks who stormed the Capitol on January 6th are some very light prosecutions. They're
Yeah,
not sending,
yeah,
quote, a message to
yeah.
those who have no regard for government institution, government practice, and the military protections of government practice. They're very, folks are facing very little. Look, we got folks in prison who, just by virtue of having been in the Black Panther Party, who spent more than 4 and 5 decades in prison, right? Just for identifying with something radical, right? And here these folks literally stormed the Capitol looking at 3 months, 18 months, and these lame, this sending absolutely the wrong message to folks who definitely need another message, a deterring message of another kind. This is we had the real crossroads of something really serious in this country.
But brother Zaid, that again, right, is what I said when the congressman was on last week, right? You know, Joe Biden really could do something about, this whole voting rights thing. But he doesn't want to mess with the filibuster, right? He doesn't want to tweak it in any kind of way in order to get what it is that black folk need to make happen in this community around really making changes to guarantee the voting rights for black folks in this country.
Right.
And we always want to negotiate uh, with folk after we get them elected. That's not the time that you negotiate, right? The time to negotiate is before you give them your votes.
That's
And
right.
and I'm a little curious as to why has Congressman Clyburn been so quiet? Right? I mean, I haven't heard nothing from him recently.
How
Have
about
you?
that? How about that? Ain't heard the peep out the old brother.
Right. And so I'm curious why we haven't heard nothing from him. And of course the congressman said that, they need to go back and put some pressure on them as a caucus to begin to put pressure back on them so that they don't, because once it's out of sight, it's out of mind, right? Once you
Well,
take it over to people.
what's interesting? I was listening to Joe Madison, excuse me, and
I was just thinking
what's
about
And how's he
interesting,
doing, by the way, Donna?
Yeah, I was just thinking about him.
he's today was day 32, I believe, of his of
It's
his
fast.
food
Yeah.
fasting, and he's okay. But one of the things that Joe Madison brought out is this senator who took over Biden's seat is not even voting like Biden would vote. So you got to think Biden held down that seat for years, and now you have somebody who comes to fill in that term, you know, um, because Biden has ascended to the presidency, and this person is not even like-minded, as Biden. So that's a problem right there. I don't have the name offhand, but you would think. Um, the people in Biden's district are used to a certain type of governance. They sent Biden back term after term after term, and now you have this person there who's like, oh well, maybe that to me should have been a no-brainer. I believe that Clyburn and Biden and them are because it's just not the two. The mansion and the other, I can't think of the other person's name, that are always the people that are saying they're voting against the Democrats issues. It's about 12 or 13 of them that they're having a problem with. So, but they're always putting out Manchin's name, and what's the other is it Senna? I can't think of the name. But those two persons that are always on the front, or who are always known as the problem, but it's just not those two. It's about 12 or 13.
Yeah.
Um,
Gottheimer in New Jersey.
right here. So we have, and this is one of the things that Madison was putting out, that we have to start making phone calls to all of them and get them, like
He's right about that.
it's not like Biden's going to be in there forever,
Her name is
and we
Cinnamon.
don't.
Cinnamon.
Yes, and we need to fast track some of these things that we need done, and one is these voting issues, and and he outlined. And matter of fact, oh good, what's the name of the voting? What is the name of the bill? It's the Joe.
What-
What's the name of the voting bill?
The
Well,
John Lewis Act.
The
it's
John Lewis, yes.
John
So
Lewis. Yeah.
So John Lewis himself outlined that these things need to be done, because if you don't do them, we're going to have big problems.
Right.
And so, this, and I think that the silence, the quiet is because we're having these problems amongst ourselves within the Democratic,
But
within the Democratic body, because they themselves are not united.
Donna, we've got to see. But that's the problem, right? See, I think that we've got to go beyond party and go to interests, right?
Right.
We've got to go beyond that, and that's the problem. We've got people in this party that don't share our interests, right? And if we're talking about the interests of our communities, and particularly the interest that all of these congressmen, particularly the black congressman from the Congressional Black Caucus, right? And I'm saying nobody has more influence and power over Joe Biden than Clyburn. So Clyburn should be able to say, look, man, these Sinema and Madison, these folks are not going to support anything that we do, and maybe a few others, particularly around voting rights and around the George Floyd bill. That's not going to happen. What we need you to do is, even if you're not willing to make any permanent changes to the filibuster. We asking you to do a go around, and that's how you say thank you to these folks. Because even on the other end, Donald, remember, you know, we know that the Democrats are going to be in trouble next year. We know that. Why? Because they're not going to be able to motivate them young people because they haven't given them anything. They refuse to do anything around this whole issue of student debt, right? They stalling on that. And them young kids, I don't care what their parents say, them young kids ain't gonna come out and vote. And that brother in Atlanta is in trouble. He's in trouble, right? And if they're gonna take over the governorship in Atlanta with Stacey Abrams, they need the help of them young people. They need the same level of enthusiasm that they had for them young people coming out and voting for those two senators. They need to get that. But them young people are not going to do what their parents did. They want something for their vote, and they should.
They
right?
so should.
Their parents are willing to trust these old white men and give them power, and then say, "Oh, I got your back." And then when you get elected, they keep saying, "I got your back," but nothing happens. No. Young people ain't going for that. Them young black people are saying, "No, you got to give us something. You got to show us something." And unless they do that, I'm telling you, these black folks are going, and rightly so. A lot of them folks, a lot of them brothers and sisters should lose their seat because they're not putting the proper pressure on Joe Biden to do something around that filibuster.
One of the things too that's also important to appreciate about Gary in '72, Gary was also, people forget, it was about the coming out of the Congressional Black Caucus.
Yep.
It was a coming out. It was a coming out. It wasn't just that, because the agenda was broad, and that's what we're trying to come back to, trying to get our community mature enough to come back to something like that. But as a body, that was the first major public expression of the Congressional Black Caucus as a body, and they were not passive. They took that agenda and went and made some noise within the halls of Congress. They were not going to be quiet and use their influence to do whatever they could to expand their ranks, right? And that's the kind of stuff we need to see once again. I know somewhere in the 70s and the 80s, Democrats got comfortable and they started doing this Bill Clinton dance and moving to the right and getting into these kind of formulas that minimize voter participation, and a number of black elected officials got involved with that kind of rhythm in our community. It took the surprise emergence of Barack Obama for a different kind of emergence to take place, and the traditional basis even then didn't come out for our folks went past black elected Democratic leadership, because the black elected Democratic leadership was telling them to vote for Hillary Clinton. They said, no, we're not going to do that. We ain't hearing y'all. We're going to vote for the brother, right? And he used a very different formula than what folks hadn't gotten comfortable with, by which we lost all this ground. And as we lost ground, of course, these other folks took ground. 80s, you had Reagan and Bush and the contract with America. Y'all remember that mess, right? Rush Limbaugh used AM radio to be a mass organizing tool for the right wing. I don't care what you think about him as being backwards politically. Yeah, he was backwards, but he used what resources that he had at his disposal to organize his base to take power. We don't do that.
Right.
We want to talk about why so-and-so ain't with so-and-so no more. And what so-and-so was wearing to the award ceremony.
Right. And Zaid, listen, man, I'm telling you that black folk have got to be clear, right? And we can't allow people to make it racist, right? Because on our end, that's not where it's coming from. It's coming from an interest perspective. We have got to vote our interests, man. Every other group of people,
everybody does that without apology.
To do it, right?
Without apology.
And I'm saying that for some reason that old slave bugaboo is with us, right? And so we, we just won't say, nah, it can't be just about me and a job, right? Me getting a job as a congressman, me getting a job as the mayor, me getting a job as a city kid. No, it's got to be about the interests of the masses of
That's
black
right.
folk,
Our people.
right?
That's right.
And that's what we've got to begin to do. And that's why I'm saying at the convention, we've got to have these conversations and dialogue, right? That says, look, man, when we leave here, that old business as usual, when you guys think that y'all, and Mayor Baraka says this, right? When these guys think that they should be in that position for life. No, who said that? I mean, why should you be the congressman for 30 years and don't have a young person riding with you, but when the interests of black folk come up, you're not necessarily putting the interests of black folk first.
Right.
Nah,
Right.
nah, that's no. That's we've got to change that paradigm, and we've also got to change the way that these folks believe that they should be there for life. No, somebody need to be riding next to you, right? And we need to see that person, and you need to be grooming them. Remember, Zai, we make that mistake all the time. Remember, Gil Noble made that mistake with Like It Is, right? He
Yeah,
didn't
he
have a
wasn't
young
lost.
person riding with him. Where's Like It Is now?
Yeah, we lost all those shows as the
Where's
sun just
Positively
moved off
Black?
the scene. That's right. We lost all those shows
Right.
at the same
And
time.
and, and I'm saying, where's Tony Brown?
Yeah,
Right.
we lost. Tony's still
I'm
in the
saying
land of the
all of
living, thankfully. But
no, he's still alive. What I'm
yeah, but we
saying
lost
is that
ground.
they created a brand,
Right.
right? And I'm saying those brands, Positively Black. That I mean,
Mhm.
just saying that, right? And then what they bought for, right? You think about. Listen, man, I used to love to see Gil Noble on Sunday, man. Hear the bongos playing, right? And who was he gonna be sitting there talking to? And he comes forward in this darkness, a black behind him, and then just him and his guests. I mean, awesome, man.
Yeah, yeah.
But
We
young
lost
people
that.
today don't know nothing about that,
No, no. Unfortunately.
right?
Unfortunately, yeah,
And
and that
so
and
and
that
so
was and that was the fruit of struggle. And Gil used to say it, first they needed somebody to cover the Newark Rebellion. They said, "Don't
right,
send no white reporters in here." And then they sent Gil in. And Gil said, "Look, tell me everything you need me to say to get out, and I do what I can to get out." And out of that came a mandate for a certain number of hours on major stations to be devoted to community television, right? And that's where Black News, Channel 5, Positively Black, Channel 4, Like It Is, Channel 7, that's where all that came from. And, that's again, that's ground that we lost, not being vigilant about what we had at our disposal and not being, vigilant about the other dimensions of the vote. The vote ain't just going to the polls at a given election, right? The vote is a corner handle on resources that you should have say about based on your numbers in the population in a given space of time, right?
right,
It's about institutional influence on institutions that you have access to by virtue of those numbers and that presence in certain places in time. And that requires the constant flow of folks who understand what's at stake, your interest that you're talking about, right? And how to manage a constant wave of generation of resources, generating of protest, generation of grassroots lobbying, right? Folks do not appreciate this. We get ready, I mentioned the King March on January 15th. Folks should study SCLC, the organization, and what the Southern Christian Leadership Conference did. Most political scientists who paid attention to the organizing that came out during that period will say that the Southern Christian Leadership was one of the most effective and the most efficient grassroots lobbying organizations that we had seen in that time, right? And folks totally missed that about the Dr. King's legacy, right? And that's important. And that continued quite a few years after he left the scene, right? And giving a lot of respects and props to Coretta Scott King. Coretta, they continued to lobby no matter who was in the Congress, who was in the Senate, right, or who was in the White House. If the interest said we need to speak to this, they did that, right? But as a broader population, we got away from that, and we got a whole new generation that has to relearn how to do that.
Yep, absolutely, man, and that's the thing, brother Zaid. I think that we have to get back to those training classes, right? Um, and all that stuff that those brothers and sisters did in the '60s is needed now more than ever, right? They had all of those training classes, and we have to do that, and we have to begin
Freedom
to lay
schools,
that out.
liberation schools.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
and it's necessary. But remember, they also had folks who went out and listen. Zaid, I was having a conversation, and we're gonna have to get into this. I guess it's coming up, but I was having a conversation about about Acorn. Do you remember Acorn?
Yeah, I do.
And remember, they had a dynamite organization, but the Republicans set them up in 2008 and totally destroyed that organization. Right? It was a black woman that was running that organization at the time. But what they had was they had a tremendous apparatus at getting people registered to vote.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. Get out the vote. Yeah, yeah,
I mean, that was just dynamite, man, and it has not been duplicated. I'm
yeah,
saying
yeah,
for black folks, right?
yeah.
Because
And then
they were willing to go in, right, where other people weren't willing to go in the
right.
projects, into the barrios and the poor communities, and they would register people to vote.
And that's something that, and all that came from my struggle,
Right, right,
And so why are we not doing that?
yeah. And so we've got to
Why
get
are we
back
not
to it.
doing that?
Yeah, yeah. So I think one or two of our guests are here, and
Okay,
if they are,
bring
man,
them
you
in.
can just bring them on screen, and
Let's bring them on in.
you
Oh,
know,
there they go. There we go. Right on. These are
right?
two bad. Ed, these are two bad sisters, beloved.
I hear
I'm
you,
here to
brother.
tell you, they've been making some noise. I'm so proud of these two. Right. Now I'm saying that against the background of some very horrible. Today is the International Day of Human Rights, right?
Mm.
And we're the visitation of these two powerful queens comes against the background of some horrible violations of our human rights in local prisons. New Jersey prisons are off the chain,
Mm.
right? They're off the chain, right? And New Jersey Prison Watch, a coalition of folks who have survived, haven't been on the inside, and other prison reform, prison justice veterans and activists have really created a force to be reckoned with on this very issue, right? They were out front on the question of Murphy in the state getting folks to be released that ought to be released in the face of the COVID pandemic. They're out there. Queens blew the whistle loud and clear. That led to Edna Mahan's ultimately, about to be shut down by virtue of all the abuse that women have been going through at that facility. And of course, now right here, all politics are local. Right here in Essex County, right?
Mm.
We've got some serious abuse right here at Essex County Jail that is unforgivably embarrassing and horrific, right? Jashawn Boyd, right? Stomped on videotape over 2 minutes and 23 seconds. Nafeesah Goldsmith, when she closed out that press conference and rally did with that silence for 2 minutes and 23 seconds, it blew folks' mind because you could see just how much could be gotten done to someone in that kind of time. So I'm proud to give you both Cuqui Rivera and Nafeesah Goldsmith of New Jersey Prison Watch, right, who gave us some powerful work and got some powerful words to share to us about the urgency of this particular condition here in Jersey's killing fields, right? Welcome, y'all. What's going on?
Welcome.
Peace, Baba Zaid. Peace. It's so
Nafeesah,
great to be
you got
here.
your hands full. Who do you have with you?
Little Mama.
Uh-oh. She was at the rally too, wasn't she?
Yeah, she's a young organizer.
The next generation.
That's right. Start them
You
young
had
from
in
the cradle.
carriage. Yes, right. I talked to your daughter at the rally. Yes, right. So what's going on? Y'all tell us. Y'all give us the 411. What's taking place?
We're going to let Cuqui take it away.
Go ahead, Cook. You know what to do.
Well, happy holidays, peace and blessings to everyone. It's an honor to again and privilege to be here with you, Zaid, and the family here of All Politics Are Local. I thank you so much for giving us a few more minutes to share with the public and get our messages out. We had a very sad and powerful and difficult press conference and rally here in Newark this past Wednesday, calling out the consistent, the persistent, the constant torture that goes on throughout the entire New Jersey prison system, that goes on throughout all county jails in New Jersey. And we were drawing light on these horrors. And we just kind of had to do it because we're sitting here in the month of November, and that horrific video, to tell you, I was even not able to look at the Edna Mahan video when 30 men smashed themselves into an 8x10 cell to brutalize this woman in January. But over the Thanksgiving weekend, I had to see this video of Jayshawn Boyd and listen to the giggling and just standing there in shock for 2 minutes and 23 seconds, knowing that nobody was coming, and literally coming off that video and knowing that nobody had came. So I don't even know when they got there, right? And to have just for this particular one, have Governor McGreevey come out and say they follow protocol. And then literally, while I'm writing a press advisory for this event, a murder takes place where somebody's in their cell minding their business and somebody comes in there and stabs them to death.
Wow.
Yeah, his name is Dan Gellin. Go ahead.
Yeah. And, how does that happen when they lock you for 23 hours and because of COVID? So who's walking around like that with permission? And who's given the permission? Our event talked about the history of this because it's been going on for 20 years that I've personally been involved in this advocacy with. And my role there was to kind of bring us through a couple of events, not all, of what, goes on, not only with the prison guards, but also with the medical staff. And also, let me say why this is just something that we really have to focus on as well, was all of this realignment of prisons and realignment of county jails and all of these things that I believe really has something to do with Jayshawn's results being transferred as a mentally ill person from Union County, Elizabeth, to Newark, where there's all kinds of beef, if you will. But this young man had no clue what was coming towards him, and now he's on life support.
Now, Cuqui, let me just ask you a question. Are we talking about that young man who we seen folks, a number of other men kicking him and throwing things on his head and so forth? That's who we talking about?
That's who we talking about. Two microwave ovens was smashed on his head. A water cooler was smashed on his head. Bleach was thrown on him. He kept kicking. A young man stands down and tie his sneakers because he knows nobody coming to bother him from the guards. No concern whatsoever. That's the one incident of so many that continue to occur. Now, again, we, as the Prison Justice Watch, have been, and its partners have been vital in the emergency COVID release of 4,000 people out of carceral space in this past November. And there's a void to fill. So come back to our fields to fill these cells. And we have to understand that there's a lot of new kind of chaos for the Department of Corrections and county carceral spaces and protocols and systems, and we cannot let this go. And it's getting worse. It's not getting better. So we are forced to continue shining light on this. And how comfortable is this in holiday season? We're sitting here trying to sit at a Thanksgiving dinner with our families, and this is what we see. We're sitting here getting ready for Christmas and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and whatever it is holiday we celebrate, and we're getting ready for another one in Cumberland County. How do you do that and keep light on this? I also want to say that the former attorneys general Gruber, I know I'm killing the name, really made a mark in standing up for the victims in carceral spaces by charging, indicting, convicting 10 people that was involved in the Edna Mahan horror. But let's be clear, there was 30 of them that fit into an 8x10 cell to do this to this one woman. We have to continue to scream this outrage and call them out, because Jim McGreevey don't belong there. Jim McGreevey don't belong representing a civilian complaint review board with that. And everybody who stays silent.
Yeah, by way of information, I just want to share with everybody that folks may not realize that there is supposed to be a civilian oversight entity overseeing certain affairs at the county facility, right? And McGreevey is the point person for that responsibility. Now, like the only other civilian oversight body, the Newark Civilian Review Board, it has no teeth, it has no subpoena power, doesn't have the things to hold officers accountable for their behavior and abuse when they misbehave, right? So it brings into question that whole issue too. We're not just fighting for civilian oversight over the police out here in these cities and over the state police. We also have to do it and make it strong and just as strong in oversight of these prisons and jails, because that abuse is just as abusive and it's just as much state and police abuse as is regular police abuse here on the streets. So I just wanted to get that in, because folks may not even realize that what McGreevey is. Jim McGreevey has tried to make himself out to be this post-gubernatorial prison reform liberal, right? And in that march that he's been on, he's got himself in this position, and it was just absolutely horrible. Just within a day or so after all this stuff coming out, he would come right out and say that everything was a matter of protocol. That was absolutely horrible. It was absolutely horrible. So it's a shame that we got to call him out on top of calling out correction officers, on top of calling out correction management, and on top of calling out question of medical care. And I want Nafeesah to get in this too. And Ed, I want your listeners to appreciate this. I would dare say, if we had not done that rally and protest a couple of days ago, they would not have disclosed the name of that young brother that got stabbed, right? Went to get medical help, and they sent him back to his cell, right? Sent him back to his cell, and then of course they come back to him later on, he's dead, right? So the medical neglect that went down with that, it was absolutely horrible. His name is Dan Gellin, right? So it was important for the folks who don't think, rallying and protests matters. You're out of your mind.
Now, sorry, two things.
Yes, sir.
I got two things, Cuqui. One is that when you say Jim McGreevey, we're talking about the former governor of New Jersey.
The former
yes,
governor
we
of New
are.
Jersey.
Okay, and two, are any of these people, right? Particularly the one I asked you about, where I saw them throwing things on the inmate's head and so forth. The one that's in on life support. Are any of those prisoners and those people who were committing those acts against that inmate, or any of them being prosecuted?
So as far as we know, one of them has been formally charged, but none of the guards, none of the medical staff, none of those. But the way I'd like to close this to give my beloved sister some time here is that we stood on the steps of the county executive's office for a reason. Because while we're setting this up, we see press coming out talking about we're going to set up another task force. We're going to set up a countywide task force to look into this, which is what the Civilian Oversight Committee Task Force is, right? So some more taxpayer money. We saw another article coming out. We're going to set up another task force with the Department of Corrections involvement. We don't need no more task forces. We don't, and that's why because this is county government, county authority. They can deal with this, not to send up and waste more taxpayers' money, not to set up another task force next year. This needs to be dealt with right now.
Right now.
And you don't need another one and pick more people next year. And you need to get rid of these. That's what you got to do. Get rid of these people right now and charge those who just sat there silent and giggled.
There's somebody that was being charged with Dan Gellin's stabbing. Also, but like I said, that wouldn't have come out if it hadn't been no process. And I really uplift this too. The whole question of that stabbing death that falls now under the AG's office.
Yes, and
right?
he's involved.
Anybody that dies at the hands of the police or in police custody, right? They get investigated by the AG's office. That's supposed to be the step beyond the weak, compromised, wishy-washy prosecutions and investigations that previously were done on the county level when it comes to police and police oversight. So this is a test. Some pressure needs to be made there too. So that rally was very important. Nafeesah, what say you, my queen? You were all up in this. You were the soul of that rally and protest a couple of days ago. Very proud of what you did and what you've been doing. What say you about all this?
I appreciate you, Baba. Well, what we see here is nothing new, and that's the fucked up part. There's no other way I could shade that, right? That's the part that's really messed up, because lives have been lost, from the time that we started this prison industrial complex, right? That came from a slave system. That is what it's about. It's about getting money for bodies and not caring what happens to those bodies. There is no such thing as care and control. There is none of that. And it's quite obvious from what we saw. They did not care enough to intervene with that brutal attack that happened to our brother Jay Sean, and they did not even attempt to control it. And so that, like my sister has said, we have to stop this, and it has to stop now. The more we look at it, we can see just how messy the system is, because you would think that once that happened to Jay Sean and there was press on it, that they would want to tighten up a bit. But clearly, 2 months later, they haven't tightened up on anything. And it makes me even question the warden. This is happening on the warden's watch. I think everyone should be held accountable. As it stands right now, 7 of those individuals who were part of that brutal attack, they have been charged with attempted murder. And so if they have been charged already with attempted murder, then you have to tell me that the officers, the shift officers who were responsible, something has been done within that same period of time. I would love to hear what has happened as a form of accountability for those officers, because that was aiding and abetting in an attempted murder. And there is no way that you can tell me that within those 2 minutes and 23 seconds that we saw on video, that they responded, as former Governor McGreevy said, in an almost immediate way. And I don't know what the hell that means, almost immediate. That's like an oxymoron. Either it was or it wasn't, and we can see that it was not. It was not immediate. And Baba, you were there. You were able to see and feel what that was like, just to wait for 2 minutes and 23 seconds. It felt like an eternity. So imagine being beaten within that time, and hoping and waiting for someone to come in to help you. And after the camera stopped, how long did it take?
Mm-hmm.
That is beyond inhumane. It is diabolical. We are going to continue to demand, the protocols. We're looking into those things. We're doing our research. We are demanding the immediate removal of those officers. And we are demanding the removal of McGreevy from his position as chair of the Civilian Task Force. And we are also demanding a investigation into CFG, because the medical services, I understand.
Tell everybody what CFG represents. What's that stand for?
Cuqui, do you have the exact acronym for that?
I do not.
Yeah, I'm like, I can't even think about it. I don't want to mess it up at all. Yeah, no. But they are based.
No, Baba.
Yes, they're based in Voorhees, New Jersey, but they are basically the medical service provider for
they got the contract to provide the medical service.
All of the county jails for the most part in the state. Okay, including Union, where Jay Sean was from, and Essex, where he was almost murdered. Yeah. So we can see that. Here it is. There was another statement recently released, and McGreevy said that it is difficult to discern between the two populations, meaning those who have mental illness and those who do not. It may be difficult for him to discern, but it's not difficult for individuals who are leaving one county with a jacket that says this person is mentally ill and has paranoid schizophrenia, right? That carries over to the county in Essex where he is. There is nothing that you can say that you did not know. It is not difficult. If that's the case, then why are there individuals being paid to be able to make this discernment? If that's what we're saying here.
Well paid.
McGreevy sounds more like an elected official trying to cover something up than somebody who's supposed to be representing the community in a community process that's supposed to hold everybody accountable. It's a shame.
And it's also reflective too of his reentry corps. A lot of people don't receive the resources that they should be receiving. I think that when you look at an individual, you have to look at the quality and the content of their character. And for an individual to watch that video and state to the press that the officers followed protocol and they responded almost immediately, I echo again, if it was him, if it was James McGreevy lying on that floor, or his child or loved one, would he still say the same thing?
How about that? As we wind down, what should be our next moves in terms of putting pressure on this process? Cuqui, you alluded to the need for some action for some similar problems down in Cumberland County. What's our next? What are our takeaways from this talk that we have?
I'm gonna let Nafeesah talk about the next events upcoming, but I'm going to beg everyone in your studio audience to please join the Integrated Justice Alliance Facebook group in Facebook, where I run it, and you will stay current there. The New Jersey Prison Justice Watch has a Google group right now. It's NJPJW-public at Google Groups. You can join it there. We have a Twitter handle, New Jersey Prison Justice Watch, and we have a Facebook page, New Jersey Prison Justice Watch. But the media, the news is on the Integrated Justice Alliance, which is the original New Jersey Prison Justice Watch. So we're just still together.
And you can put all that in the chat too.
Okay. Yeah, so and then I would like Nafeesah to talk about the upcoming events that we are in planning with.
So once again, this is not over. And we had a press conference a couple of weeks ago at in Trenton, outside of the DOC corporate offices, where we were calling out Rutgers Health. And so we are following up with that at Southwoods, because we have there our hospice, and we have individuals who are not receiving the treatment that they should be receiving. It's horrific, the things that are happening. You have, I don't even want to go into the graphics of just what's going on with our brothers who are in there, but, you know, we have folks who have been complaining of, you know, just discomfort, or complaining of lumps, and these things are not being checked out. And then once they have been, it's too late. You know, now we're at a point where individuals are terminally ill, you know, cancer, and there is nothing else you can do to fight it. So there is no room for treatment. And we can't continue this, right? We have individuals who are quadriplegics who are crawling to the shower, you know, to bathe themselves. How is that? How does that happen? Then we have, you know, just families who they don't know where else to turn. And we should not be experiencing any of this stuff when you are supposedly being detained in a space where you're going to be provided the medical care that your body needs and deserves, and you need it to live. So we are going to Southwoods Prison on December 27th. And we are also going to be leaving there, going to the Cumberland County Jail. They're 7 minutes apart when you're driving, so you know they're not far. And we are going to be confronting CFG for their medical neglect at the Cumberland County Jail. There has been many reports of, you know, not only deaths, but you know, just even the sexual misconduct that's happened there. And on a more personal note, and I will say this, it's very personal for me to go to Cumberland, because my baby sister, my younger sister, died in Cumberland County Jail because of medical neglect. She complained to the nurse, and she complained to her unit officer that she was not feeling well. My sister was only going to be there over the weekend, and they were going to release her on her own recognizance that following Monday. That Sunday night, she complained about not feeling well. The nurse told her to go to her cell and lie down. She told the nurse, I feel like if I lay down, I'm not going to wake up. My sister did not wake up when they popped those doors at 6 a.m. for breakfast.
Wow.
We cannot continue to let our brothers and sisters die at the hands of individuals who don't give a damn about their job. They have to go. Everybody has to be held accountable. And there has to be, you know, I'm looking at it like this. There has to be a federal investigation. It has to go beyond the state. But I'm also calling out Governor Murphy too. You know, you have to say something. You cannot justify this bullshit, and you cannot think that the counties are going to be able to handle this on their own, because it's quite obvious people are dying on your watch all the way around the board.
Counties could not handle the police on their own. What makes you think they can handle corrections on their own? Got to have.
And what kind of training are they receiving?
Oversight. Right. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Baba. And what kind of training are they receiving in the county? They have their own training curriculum. Is it adequate? Is there any training that has to do with de-escalation? What's really going on here? Are you afraid? Are these officers afraid to enter those units? Because honestly, for anyone who has been incarcerated, you know that if a fight breaks out like that, if that door opens and an officer steps in, just that officer's presence alone could have de-escalated that, which makes me feel like they knew very well what was going to happen.
Set up, and all the stench of the setup in my mind is judgment.
Absolutely. Right. You don't take someone who you know is a known schizophrenic, who has mental, illnesses, who's supposed to be in a medical unit, and put them in a gang unit.
So Sister Nafeesah, let me ask you a question. Two things. One is former Governor McGreevy, is his position as the chairman of the Civil Complaint Review Board, is that an elected or an appointed position?
I believe it's something that you're appointed, but I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't appoint himself.
Yeah.
You know?
No, but it's also under county governance, so it would be from Joe D. Again, why we were on those steps, because that's who governs this county jail.
So y'all believe that it was Joe D that appointed him to that position?
That's who governs this county jail, the county executive.
So if you all are looking to remove him from that position, why not call for a meeting then with him and then put that before him in regards to having him removed based around all of the things you all just outlined?
Well, that is possible if he would meet with us, number one. But number two, the reason, at least the reason in my mind, I don't know where everybody else was, but his response to the September 24th assault on Jayshawn Boyd in the month of November after Thanksgiving was that he wanted to set up a couple more task forces. And that's, I wasn't in the right mind for you to tell me that you're going to go look for some more people to appoint them, who knows when, and not address the immediate issue at hand. So,
and I would also say, Cuqui, this Ambrose group that's supposed to be doing the investigations, they're all DOC folks. And one of them was former DOC Commissioner Lanigan.
Yeah.
No, not at all. This is obviously the interest of the people really isn't there. What it is that you're in the hot seat and it seems like you're just trying anything. You're grabbing at straws, and it's not what is needed. You need to have a conversation with, impacted people, the family members, and you need to really look at what type of folks need to be a part of these task force, and not people who have their own little personal interest and whatever kind of monetary gain that they would receive, or attention to their programs, or that. No, not at all. How can you be comfortable? How could anyone be comfortable knowing that an individual who sits in such a seat as McGreevy would say what he said? That was an immature move. You would think that somebody with as much political know-how and muscle as he has, that he would never have said anything like that.
I kind of want to add to this, Bubba, because you was at our event and you saw Jayshawn Boyd's parents, both mom and dad, there.
Right.
And them along with everybody else that goes through this, and it's a daily occurrence throughout the state of New Jersey. Prison officials, county executives don't even let you know they're in the hospital or what has happened since when, or thereafter have any concern for the parents and what they're going through, or the loved ones of those who are trying to desperately find out what has occurred because someone else may have called or something. And there's never any consideration for the families. Again, that's a no. We're not. Are we human or not?
So, Cuqui, do you guys have any elected official support at this point?
We have a number of legislators that have, over the past 20 years, literally championed a lot of major legislation and historic legislation, and including as recent as the Edna Mahan horrors, that a team of legislators literally forced themselves onto a tour in that prison, but they were on, unfortunately, what we have to understand was a guided tour. Mm-hmm. They didn't get to go where they wanted to go. Right. But I've been doing this since the early 2000s and before, literally since the 90s. And we've passed so many historic laws that were first in the country, in the nation, like bail reform and isolated confinement and the emergency COVID bill, racial ethnic impact studies on community criminal justice bills, all of these. And which ones of them are actually implemented? And that's the issue. So that we have legislators. Right now we have 2 attorney general, this one and the one before that, are really taking this on as much as their office allows. At least we see it, right? We have legislators who have championed many bills. And we really just had another one come out the other day on giving people Medicaid and food stamps and general assistance and emergency assistance. Where else are you going to go coming out of prison after 30 years and get denied for welfare? What else is there? Get denied for Social Security, denied for Medicaid. Where else are you going? That's the bottom of the barrel. So the major legislation literally came out this week for that, which takes a little bit of time to implement as well. But so to your point, Edward, there's a lot. Legislators are doing a lot. So last year's battle cry from the Latino Action Network and the Prison Justice Watch was implement the legislation. And here we are now that we are going to have our statewide legislative conference virtually on March 5th because COVID can't make up its mind and leave us alone. But now the focus of our legislative conference will be this. It
March
was implementation last year, but now it's this. The chaos and the horrors of this is how we've progressed. Come on.
And just to add, I'm sorry.
I was just curious, Nafeesah, and you can go after this. I'm just curious. What about the spiritual community, right? The black churches and so forth. Or do you guys have any support from local ministers and so forth? Because it would seem to me that you see all these elected officials, right, and McGreevy and all of these folks. You see these folks whenever they're looking for votes, they go to the black church. So I'm wondering if we, in a lot of these churches, the parents of these inmates are in those churches supporting those preachers with tithes and offerings. So so it would seem to me that you all should be trying to put some pressure because we also do something here with the preachers. It would seem to me that you all should start some sort of campaign to get the churches with y'all as well, and begin to put some pressure on getting McGreevy removed if this guy's in charge. I mean, just that title alone is incredible, right? The chairman of the Civilian Review Board. He's supposed to represent civilians, and if he's not doing that, and then he makes an asinine statement like he made, it would seem to me that ought to be grounds for immediate removal, and then we ought to discuss who are the people that need to be in that position, and if it's a voted in position, then we need to organize people who can vote for it. If it's an appointed position, then we need to find out who appointed them to that position, and then do a meeting with that person and say, we have a petition from black ministers, we have a petition from the community, and we want this man removed immediately. And if not, then if Joe D is the guy, then put pressure on Joe D. Campaign out of his office for him to be removed.
So I'm sure Nafeesah will pick up from here, but literally, salvation and social justice is the umbrella of the New Jersey Prison Justice Watch. We have faith in New Jersey as a partner, and we do have the black church in a number of ways paying attention. Definitely need more. We do not have the Latino church in that kind of space yet. So we do have it, but and yes, that's a great idea, Edward. They should join us even in these events. And I know Nafeesah got more to say.
Yeah, so
you can have the last word because we'll have to get ready to do another session.
Okay, Baba, how much time do I have?
Now go ahead and make your point.
Take your time.
All right, faith-based organizing is, we can look at our civil rights movement and we can see where the organizing took place, right, in the churches. It makes me think of King's letter from Birmingham jail when he reached out to all of the clergy and he spoke to them, many of which did not agree with the way he was organizing in his peaceful protest. However, he did make his point as to why he was doing the work that he was doing. And when you look at our faith community, I would say that they, because of our history, Black and brown people's history, that they should be wanting to jump and be on board, because it's all about service. And we cannot ignore the fact that over 97% of individuals who are incarcerated will be released. And where will they be going? Where will they be going for their help? Where will they be going for their salvation? Right? So we do need to add more pressure on our faith organizations, because they need to be at the forefront and they need to be held accountable too. You cannot sit in your homes, okay, and Zoom into church service and feel like you've done, your job, you've done your duty for the week. No, this is all about lives. The other thing that I want to say is that I appreciate the brother for even mentioning the faith organizations, because we cannot forget that McGreevy is also clergy.
I did not know that. Wow. Yeah. Did not know that.
He was going into the prisons as a part of clergy.
Right.
So,
shout out Amos Cali. He was there at the rally.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's always, there.
Yeah,
and
he's been out there for a minute.
Yes, and we need to see more of it. And it needs to be more Black people, representing and standing up for us. And it is a true story that members of the Black church, they are embarrassed, or they do their best to avoid even talking about or acknowledging the fact that they have a family member who's incarcerated, or that they were once formerly incarcerated, because they do not want to be shunned. They do not want to be judged. But I will say that most of the prophets were imprisoned. So we have to stand up. We have to stand up. And
how about that? Yes.
We're going to be out there on the 27th at Southwoods and at Cumberland County Jail. And we're just urging everyone, if you want to get involved, put the information in the chat, reach out to us, and we will keep you well informed.
And I'll definitely have it on blast as well. Right now, as we get ready to go out, Nafeesah, is this your first time on the air with us?
Yes.
So we have to ask you a question, right? As you go out, Cuqui, you've been on, right?
Yes, sir.
The question is, this is very simple. This is just to change the rhythm a little bit, right? This is the number one hip hop talk show in the universe. Right? So we ask everybody that comes on the air, no matter their age, race, stripe, or whatever they got, right? Who are you listening to or rocking, or who is your favorite hip hop artist that you're paying attention to right now? Who you rocking? Who you listening to?
You know what? I'm a little all over the place with that. And for me, I like old school hip hop. I'm just saying. I need some KRS-One.
Mm-hmm.
I need to be able to feed my spirit.
Teacher, he was with us a little while ago too.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I need some of that. Some come to the teacher. I need some of that.
All right.
Yeah.
So right on. All right. So I will keep everybody abreast on how to get involved with the 27th and all the follow-up activity. I'm going to do what I can to get there on the 27th as well. It's a good session. I appreciate your commitment, right? Your passion, your love for the people, right? And that's how we get down. And I'm at your back. You have an open mic here at All Politics Are Local. So we appreciate y'all coming on. We appreciate y'all continuing to sound the drum.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Thank you.
Yes. Good
Thank
session.
you all so much.
Session.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Welcome. You're
Yep.
welcome, my daughter. All right. Right. All right, Cook. Love you, Queen. All right.
Right.
All right. Now, I
All
know,
right.
I know Conrad. Where's Conrad? I know we got to get ready for the vote now. We were
I saw
talking
him in the
about the vote.
background.
We got to bring our little brother in to have his say, right?
So, Brother Conrad, can you hear us? I did see that you had.
I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we
can
hear
hear
you
we
now,
don't
brother.
see you.
Well, of course, y'all know it is the second Friday of the month, and y'all know that it's time for the vote. Of course, we have 5 members of the vote. Brother Conrad is one of them. Rakia Lumumba is another one. Of course, we have Mitty Baraka. We have Tamika Mallory, and we have Monifa Bandelli. But of course, tonight joining us tonight for the team is, of course, our beloved brother, the one and only, of course, without any fanfare, but probably one of the greatest freedom fighters out there right now, who's moving in his own space. Our beloved brother Reverend Conrad Tillard. Welcome, brother.
Peace, peace, peace. And good evening to all of you. And good evening to the people of Newark, New Jersey. Newark, New Jersey.
Well, brother, I think that one of the places we want to start is we want to try and pick up and say, man, what a great job you did at the press announcement for the 50th anniversary of the National Black Political Convention, which is coming to the city of Newark next year in the spring. Wanted to say what an awesome job you did, my brother.
Excellent.
Well, I tell you, it was a great honor for me, number one, to be in the city of Newark with, of course, our wonderful committee, Unity Without Uniformity, with Mayor Cuqui Lumumba, and of course with the host minister, Ras Baraka. It was just such a joy, literally, behold movement royalty. There are not a lot of cities where you can go to an event and in the audience you basically have movement royalty. Dr. Jeffries, Brother Zaid, I mean, the list goes on and on, Frederica Bay. And when you think about Newark, New Jersey, and you think about the reason why we decided to bring the National Black Political Convention to the city of Newark is because so much history has been made in that city. Not only the riots or the rebellions in '67, not only Ken Gibson being elected in '70, but the cultural movement, the great leadership that came out of Mosque number 25, South Orange Avenue, Baraka's movement. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And I might add East Orange, and South Orange. That's just a great, Essex County is a great county for Black people in this country.
And you're right. When you say that, you talk about all of those people that were in that audience and leaders in their own right. You're right. It was an awesome group of people that were there. But I want to talk a little bit, Brother Conrad, if you can, before we move on to some other things we want to talk about. You were giving context to what the convention is all about. Can you share a little bit of that?
Yes, because that's so important. When you talk about a National Black Political Convention, we have to put our mind of what the organizers of that 72 convention were thinking about. And clearly, all roads, when you talk about a black confab to Niagara Falls, New York, in 1908 was Niagara Movement, the first time leaders together and said we have to put a plan together for our people. And then throughout the annals of history, we came together. Often we had to deal with ideological differences. Often we had to be able to put aside egos to really be able to look past each other's faults and the community's needs. We did that in the Congress of African People in Atlanta in 1970, where all the black groups came together. And again, the expanse of these conventions has always been ideologically broad. So at the Congress of African People, for example, you had the black nationalists, but you also had the traditional groups, NAACP. And in fact, Whitney Young was booed off the stage in Atlanta, and Minister Farrakhan, representing the Nation of Islam, in one of his first national speeches after his ascension to the position of Minister of Mosque No. 7 and National Spokesman of the Nation, he actually pulled the folks together and said, "Hey, we can't boo our brother off the stage. We have to hear what he has to say." All of these traditions did that in 72. And so there's tradition for the mediator, for the person who, yes, we all have our ideological people who have been able to say, no, but you have not been able on your own to make change. And I can't make change on my own. So you may have the best program according to you, but hell, we're still in a hellhole. So maybe you're not strong enough to do it yourself, and I'm not strong enough to do it by myself. And so we've got to collectively come together and come up with a solution. I was happy and privileged, in 1960, the young people organizing in the South came together and formed Ella Baker and some of the black sisters.
Mm-hmm. That's we talk about SNCC in 1960.
Yeah,
Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. That's right.
Yeah, Ella Baker told the students, "Hey, you've got to have an organization independent of the preachers," and that was a major confab when people like Marion Barry, John Lewis, Diane Nash, all these great people in their own right came together to form SNCC. In 1986 at the University of Pennsylvania, we pulled together 700 student leaders, black leaders, again, spanning political, from Stokely to Kwame Ture, to very, very conservative people, to nationalists, Dr. Jeffries, I mean, you name it, everybody, Karanga. And so we have to do this. And so Jesse said that was the most significant convention since the founding of SNCC, and that was 86, 87, when we came back to Howard. And other conventions have taken place, but always with this theme of let's come together in spite of our ideological differences and say, this is an
we know where he was going, but
what
are those items? What are those agenda items that we can all agree on and all begin to unify and organize around? That's where we was going. So I'm not trying to finish Conrad's sentence, but we know that's where he was going. And when he ran into his sound, his sound, he said, "Hope we get him back on in a moment," because he was rolling. He was definitely giving context to just how Barrett came out in 72. Is he back?
You going in and out. Go ahead, Brother Conrad.
I'm sorry. Okay. So again, I just wanted to, say that, that was our task, and just to give that historical context, because one of the
he's still struggling.
Like-minded people, and that's good. That's coming together collectively in our various collectives. But the thing about it is, you're never going to stop Muslims from being Muslims, Christians from being Christians, nationalists from being nationalists. So we have to get to a point where it's not about just trying to change people or We got to be on the same frequency because we all love each other. We're all part of the same family. We just have a different approaches, but we can come together and say we all can fight against police brutality. We all can fight against the unjust incarceration of our people. We all can come together and say we need a better educational system. So it's just about finding the places where we can all agree and work an agenda that we can work together on.
I shared some of that.
Well, I think that your analysis, Brother Conrad, and the way you laid it out, and the historical context of where we've been and where we're going is absolutely amazing, and you're right on target. One of the things I heard Ron Daniels say over the weekend, last weekend, as he was talking about the convention, one of the things he said that the convention is going to put on spotlight that next year is the year of decision, particularly for Black voters in this country, right? Because as it relates to the Congress, as it relates to the Senate, as it relates to all those midterm elections and everything that's going to be going on around the country locally, that the convention, the level of its importance could speak to that. And I don't know if you heard any of what we were just talking about with them sisters around prison reform. I mean, obviously, we need to be dealing with that from a real perspective as well, and that can be dealt with at the convention, right? Because prison reform and having a real conversation about that, particularly around young people who are committing violence in our community against our own people, and that there are real consequences behind that, right? Because a lot of the crimes that our young kids are committing and young people committing in our community, right, are felonies or crimes that will put them behind bars for most of their entire adult life. And so we need to speak to that, right? We need to speak to not only that end of it, but we need to speak to the end of it. What happens when you're incarcerated? What happens, are you being properly cared for as you do your time? Because some of the things that we see going on now, Brother Conrad, them two sisters were just sharing with us that people are being abused and murdered in prison, and the COs, the corrections officers in there aren't doing anything about it. Mm-hmm. So the convention can speak to that. I think that every area in our community, I think that the convention can speak to all of that.
He's still on?
Did we lose it?
Oh yeah, he was trying to come on the screen.
Can you hear me now?
There you go.
Go ahead, brother. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, I lost, but I think, this is why we have to get in that room, because what happens is, like, for example, the reason why this convention is called is because we need a Black political convention, a Black way of approaching our problems, a Black way of speaking about our problems. We can't often do that with progressives and different people in the room. For example, the issue of prison reform. It is a critical issue, okay? But here in New York State, the Democrats finally took over the state legislature. We were able to, with our elected officials, advocates, and pass sweeping reform, okay? And then we gotta have, and so now, because of people like Khalif Browder, who sat in jail for 3 years on Rikers Island before he could get a trial, and because of his sacrifice and attention brought to bear on the system, we've been able to make sweeping changes. But then we got to have a conversation with our brothers, because hell, we didn't fight for that, for Negroes to go out and feel like they're now have a free pass to keep committing crimes, because
Right.
what's going to happen is the more people, and see, this is when scraggly liberals get in the midst of us. We need to abolish the police. We need to do this. But wait a minute. What's going to happen is when crime goes up, as it's going up all over the country, number one, we're going to be the people who suffer the most from the crime. Okay?
Right.
It's going to take place most disproportionately in our community. But then comes the backlash. And we're setting ourselves up for perfect conditions for a right-wing shift in the United States. So we got to have a comprehensive struggle because once you pass the laws and change the laws to make them more favorable to the poor, that's so innocent people will not sit up in jail and not have the right to defend themselves because they didn't have bail money. But we got to have that internal conversation. So we have a lot of issues, and we need the space to be able to come at it from the right, left.
He went silent again. He go silent again. He was rolling.
Yep, but Brother Zaid, I think he's right when he says that we need a black way of speaking about these issues, right? And we need to be able
different from what we've been doing.
Yeah. And we need to speak about these issues differently, man.
He's trying to come back in.
And the thing is that we can't wait for George Floyd to happen for us to always say, oh, we need to have these conversations around policing issues, or we need to have these issues around black to black crime. No, I think that we've got to take the responsibility, and I think other people in other communities want us to do that. They're saying, well, when are you guys going to put on your grown man and grown women pants and dresses and have the kind of conversations that you all need to have, right? And we act like we're afraid to have those conversations. We need to have them. And Zaid, Brother Conrad, there is a conversation that we have when there's no cameras and lights around. Hell, we don't like violence any more than anybody else. And we most certainly don't want our young people hitting our mothers and grandmothers and grandfathers in the head while they trying to go get their medicine. We damn sure don't want that.
And that's what we have. We're living right.
And we're just as conservative as everybody else when it comes to that. And so that's why I think that, as we look at, Eric Adams began to make his move in New York City around, going back and taking a look at, how policing is done and how you reduce violence and how do you remove criminals, off the street. Listen, I want them cats off the street just walking around with guns just as well as anybody else. I don't want anybody's civil rights violated, no, but I damn sure do want them dudes who are criminals off the damn street with a gun, and that if I know you got a gun, I want it to be removed. Because I tell you the truth, I'd like to have a fair one with you. If you think you bad enough to rob me or hurt my mother, then if I know your gun could be taken from you and you give me a fair one, I'll be damned if I ain't gonna beat your ass. You gonna beat mine or I'm gonna beat yours. You gonna go for it.
Absolutely. Because let's face it, in Philadelphia several weeks ago, 3 young ladies were in a car, and they were leaving a nightclub, and 2 young men jumped out.
I think he went out again, brother Zaid. You muted, Zaid.
I'm steady talking. I'm muted. But yeah, we bring him back in as soon as he gets his sound.
Can you hear me now?
There you go. Come on back in, comment. Go ahead.
Okay. And so what I was saying is, did you hear the story I was telling you about Philadelphia?
Yeah, you said, Philadelphia, 2 men jumped out of the car.
Yes, and unloaded their weapons on killing 3 black women in a car.
Wow.
And I had actually, to be honest with you, as much as I've heard, I actually had never heard 2 brothers jumping out of on a car with 3 women and unloading. But then in Columbus, Ohio, that day, a family was killed. I mean, this stuff is going on in our community, and we cannot have these conversations because, you know, we as a people, we're so steeped in coalition politics with white liberals, and we know what's going on in our community. They do not. And so this convention is an opportunity to talk about that. Eric Adams, I got cut off last week when I was trying to say. Eric Adams said, yes, we need some street crimes unit brought back. He said, now, when street crimes unit is used properly, it's a tool. He said, but any tool used improperly is a weapon. So he said, for example, if a citizen calls and says that there is someone out in front of my apartment building with a gun, he said a street crimes unit is supposed to search for that gun. He said the problem in the past was street crime units were given a quota. They were given a quota. They were said to be productive. They were said to, you have to be productive. So you have to have a certain number of stops. That kind of policing by numbers will always encourage police abuse. So we can't have a conversation like that with a black mayor because Hawk Newsom and people in BLM are so far under the influence of white radicals that we can't even have the conversation because somebody living in Scottsdale is coming down to our community, and when people talk like Eric, they are saying, we don't want this Uncle Tom. I mean, you had whites at rallies, young liberal whites calling black police officers Uncle Tom. I mean, this is ridiculous. So we've got to be able to sort out what's going on in our community and come together. And that's what the hope is. And it's not that I'm grateful to your leadership, Brother Ed Riley. I'm grateful to Brother Bashir Akinele, Brother Basil, Rakia Lumumba, our board, and you know, the city, and all of these folks from Newark happening. I mean, Newark, get ready, because this convention is going to be great for the city of Newark, and it's going to once again further solidify Newark's role in the history of Black America.
Kyra, let's take it to the national stage another way. Your little sister Stacey Abrams just announced her her candidacy to run for governor again, right? And of course, that her candidacy takes place against the background of a very volatile Republican right-wing gerrymandering, you know, all kind of shenanigans going on around voter suppression in that state. What say you about the reemergence of our sister Stacey Abrams?
Well, I mean, Stacey Abrams is a tour de force, and she has established her brand. She's established her work, and it's going to be a very, very interesting race down in Georgia. But as you said, you know, when we make progress, that means we're moving toward power. And so people are to fight that. And Georgia has experienced a great deal of gerrymandering and machinations. And so people have to stay vigilant because you know, politics is warfare. It's this warfare without guns and weapons. And so once you make some advances, you got to secure the fort. You got to secure and establish a beachhead. Because if you relent or get lazy, the people that you just knocked off the hill, they're going to come and try to take it back. So the thing that black folks have to understand about politics is it's episodic. You don't just win a presidency and then that's it. Then you got to get ready for the off-year elections and the state elections and the local elections. So it's a total commitment. So I think it's going to be very interesting. I'm looking at that Senate race that Brother Warnock won. Looks like he's going to be running against Herschel Walker. So, it's a very exciting time. It's a very exciting time. But I think Stacey Abrams is going to make a great impact in Georgia. And that would be a phenomenal victory because 20 years ago, a black candidate could not win outside of Fulton County. And now, she possibly could be the first black governor of the state of Georgia. That's very Georgia. So that's an amazing big feat.
It must be said also about your little sister that she took the point for out organizing the right wing shenanigans that were going on in the senatorial election that gave us those 2 seats in the Senate that made the difference for the Democratic majority in the Senate. That wouldn't have happened. Stacey Abrams did the work of out organizing those forces that would not allow us to democratically elect those folks, and that was historic. So she's definitely got she got a brand. She's got the organization skill set to make sure that we can take that state and then maintain that state for a minute, and halt some of that right wing backwardness. Hopefully, as she makes a move. So I definitely got to give her that credit.
Oh, she outflanked them. In fact, that's what the backlash was. And see, this is what Dan. Reverend Jesse Jackson used to say in his 2 campaigns, he would go down. He had a famous speech called the Dead Speech, and he would outline how Reagan won by the margin of black despair. And he'd go through the litany of how many unregistered voters there were in Mississippi, in Alabama, in New York, in New Jersey. He would show Reagan's margin of victory, and then he would show our numbers of unregistered voters. And you see, what the Republicans are doing now in Georgia is responding to being outflanked by Stacey Abrams. Okay, right. They get it. Wow, she beat us at our own game. But again, politics is not a static game. It's episodic. So what do? Okay, we all play basketball, football. Okay, if somebody presses us and we turn in the ball over, what do? We call a timeout and reset. Okay, and that's what they're doing. That's what the play is now. So when you get no matter how you slice it, you can have the general, Stacey Abrams. You can have the vision, but we still need the numbers of people to be vigilant and to register to vote and stay engaged, because the twists and turns to hold on to power require that we do that. So she's done her part, and I know she will do her part. But the other thing is, too, the people who elect these folks are the people that they're going to be most responsive to. So in a state like Georgia, with so many black people, we need to have record numbers where they understand that this is a new game, it's a new day.
That's right. Indeed.
But the problem with that, Brother Conrad, is that and this is why everybody's concerned about the midterm elections, right? Because the Biden administration haven't given those young people anything, right? Particularly around student debt, right? And we were talking to the congressman last week, Everybody knows that them young people came out to vote primarily in Georgia for Senator Warnock and the other senator there, really because their parents had organized them kids and wanted to get rid of Trump at all costs. So them young people went out and voted. But this time around, them young people are saying, no, if you want us to come back, we registered to vote. A lot of them voted for the first time. A lot of them are in Georgia in college. And you know this, Brother Conrad, you got family in Georgia. You know them young people, are going to say, no, we're not motivated right now to go out and vote. So you got to give us something. And they're not going to be like old folk who basically, trusted white folk at every election. And then once white folks get elected, like old Joe, they start saying, I got your back, but won't do anything around the filibuster to pass the George Floyd bill or the John Lewis bill, right? So I think that if they're going to win Georgia, right, they have got to begin to put pressure on Biden to give those young people something. If you don't give them that if you don't do the George Floyd or the John Lewis bill, you got to get them young people something to get motivated about. God damn, put Stacey Abrams in office.
You're so right, and that's the downside of the Democrats' go-to philosophy. They play the race card, and they stimulate black people to vote against something. Rarely do they offer us anything that we're voting for. And as you know, like any one-trick pony, like any one-trick pony, at a certain point, it doesn't work anymore. And so Biden had an unprecedented opportunity. And in fact, black people provided him with the margin of victory, no question. Black folks wanted to get rid of Donald Trump, no question. But as you said, Ed, what have we gotten for it? What are the deliverables? And so, yes, and I know, because you have been involved in GOTV on that front line on Election Day, trying to go up in these projects and up in this community and talk to these young brothers about getting out to vote. Sometimes more sense than we. You understand what I'm saying? So, yes, I agree with you wholeheartedly. The Democrats have got to deliver. And we've got to be up on them as we're on the Republicans. Where are all these Negroes? When Donald Trump said we got a China virus, and therefore I'm shutting down immigration from China. All of these black folks are so quick to talk about this is racist, this is xenophobic. Now, we got an Omicron strain in South Africa, and I'm shutting down immigration from South Africa and Southern Africa. I haven't heard anybody talking about the racist nature of that. So it just seems to me that we give one side a complete pass, and unfortunately, that's something we got to deal with too. Because I haven't heard people talk about how xenophobic that is to shut down immigration all over Southern Africa.
Right. And I mean, you're absolutely right. And I think that from our standpoint, Brother Conrad, I think that, black folk, I think you're right. I'm just, I'm of the age and to the point in my life where I just think that, man, we've got to begin to have the kind of conversations that we need to have amongst ourselves, we need to have amongst our families, right? And we really can't be concerned about what other people think about those conversations, because I think that
our conversations,
if it's going to change, right, it's got to change with us, man. And look, everybody is not going to ride with us. I'm clear about that, right? I'm clear. But I think that the people who are going to ride with us and see the level of injustices that are going on, and all of those elders who went before us, Conrad, you said this before. You said that, you said we are the elders now. right? And so those
Right.
young people are watching us. And so if we see, the level of injustices that these other folks in these other communities are promoting against us, and we got some political power, but we're not using it. I said this before you came on. Mitty said to me, when we were at the at the press announcement, he said, Ed, one of the things, man, that we have to address at this convention, we've got to address making Black elected officials accountable, man. Right? We've got to make them accountable. We can't simply say, okay, so we're gonna have a convention. We're gonna talk about organizing Black folk all over the country. We're gonna talk about writing a Black agenda, right? We're gonna take a look at those states we populate, but then once we get you elected, right, we're not gonna hold you accountable. No, we can't do that. And we've got to change it. We've got to change it only if by the mere equation it says on one side of the ledger says that it's time for Black people in America to gain parity. Why? Because we still at the bottom of the line when it comes to wealth in this country, right? And COVID has all but wiped that out completely.
Absolutely. And that's a nonpartisan issue. One of the things that I said that day, it speaks to this term, sacrosanct. Sacrosanct means something.
You went out again, Brother Conrad.
Okay. I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yep, got you now.
In American politics, certain issues are sacrosanct, and that's why we have to fight, and that's my only argument against partisanship. When the person out Bibi Netanyahu today, I don't know if you saw that, but he's cursing out his good buddy Bibi Netanyahu of Israel. And the reason why he's cussing out Bibi Netanyahu is because Trump was good to Netanyahu. Okay.
Right.
Netanyahu got pretty much everything he wanted under Trump. But Trump doesn't understand politics. And when it looked like Biden won, Netanyahu was quick to congratulate Biden. Trump said he's one of the first world leaders to salute Biden and congratulate him. Well, Trump is angry because Trump doesn't understand politics. He thought Netanyahu was his boy.
Right.
He thought Netanyahu loved him or was concerned about him. What he didn't understand was Netanyahu is concerned about Israel's interests.
Right.
And therefore, whoever is the president, Netanyahu wants to be chummy with them. Black people don't operate from that frame of mind. If it's a Democrat, we love them. If it's a Republican, we don't want nothing to do with them. And I'm saying, and I'm going to go out on a limb, we've got to change that. Because at the end of the day, whoever has the power, that's who we've got to deal with.
Right.
We've got to learn how to deal with people who have the power, because that's what it's all about. It ain't about who you like. Netanyahu, he may have liked Trump. Maybe he just played Trump. But the bottom line was, when he saw the power was shifting to someone else, he understood that his people's agenda, he wasn't going to put Israel's agenda, hold it hostage to Trump saying, I didn't lose the election. It had to be sacrosanct. Hey, this is above your partisan politics. It's important no matter who's in office. That's who we deal with. That's what black folks have to do. We're too ideological. We like Democrats. We don't like Republicans. And that's not an intelligent political course. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't like none of them, okay? But I'll deal with all of them. Right. Because that's really what it's about. You know what I mean? our folks' agenda. That's really what it's about. It's not
I
about
love that. I love that analogy that you just used about Netanyahu, right, and Donald Trump. I think that is exactly the picture we got to paint for our people, right? Here is right a prime minister that's fighting for the interests of his people. He didn't care whether it was Donald Trump or whether it was Biden, right? It was about the interests of his people, and see, that's what I believe that Ice Cube was trying to do. I just don't think Ice Cube understood the process of being able to do that, right? But he had the right idea, right? And it was about, look, if there's an agenda, I want to move it forward for my people, and I don't care if it's Donald Trump or Joe Biden. He had the right idea.
You're absolutely right.
And we've got to move to that diversification.
And that's what it's about. Like you got it. Unfortunately, Netanyahu's people, they understand. They know the game. Hey, our agenda is number one. We don't care who is in office. We don't have a preference. It doesn't matter to us. Because when your agenda is all you care about, you don't care who's in office. As long as the people in office are responding to your agenda. And because American Jewry is so diverse in terms of the election, they got a certain portion, people always think of American Jews as liberal. And in that regard, people think of them as Democrats. But you'd be surprised. A lot of them support Republicans because Republicans are very hard on Israel and the Middle East and defense. So we got to be all over the place. I keep telling Cube's problem is the problem that most black people have, in that our people don't understand that. And they're so quick to get into this time conversation, or so quick to get into a conversation about who they like and who they don't like and who they can't stand and this and that. And these are elementary school conversations in terms of politics. It doesn't. Malcolm said, he called John Kennedy John the Fox. He said the fox will trick you. He said the wolf will just eat you up. And that's how he characterized the differences between the Republicans and Democrats. And it always strikes me as strange the way I see these Malcolmites. Boy, they get awful. They get awful emotional about Democrats. And keep in mind, when it comes to local politics, that ideology changes a bit because we are so democratic in most of the cities. The power is with the Democrats. In New York, the power is with the Democrats. That's where black power is. So that makes sense about that.
I was
New Jersey, same thing. But why?
I hear you, Conrad, dropping now that you're back on. You're saying that you need to join in all parties. I just jumped in and I was like, oh, Conrad, he's talking about how more black people need to be Republican. I got that. I understand. I received the message. But I know we're running out of this segment. It's funny because Donna's looking at me like, yeah, you're here trying to end the segment and start the next one. And Zai's looking at me and Ed's shaking his head, and I'm sure Conrad was on. He'd be like, "Oh, is he here?" To be like, "Oh, it's almost time for the next segment." I guess it is. So I know
we got to pick up on that, Conrad. We really got to develop that, and we got to pick up on that so that black folk start to move to another level of sophistication, not Republican and not Democrat, but about interest.
That's right.
Right. Thank you, Ed. Clearing it up, because Jonathan, I'm not saying black people need to be more Republican as a philosophical thing, but what I am saying is, whoever's in power, we got to. Yeah, that's all I need.
I know it's a very practical thing. It's not ideological. We need to have places in every pot.
Right there, that's all I'm saying. All right, my brothers.
All right,
God
brother
bless.
Conrad.
Peace.
Coming through, brother.
All right.
All right, beloved.
All right.
All right, brother.
All right, so and thank you. It's always good. Hello, I'm glad to be here. I'm just jumping in for a particular for a segment. I know that like it's Christmas season and people are looking at gifts to get, and we are looking at and you know, one of the best gifts to get for people are books. You know, you have kids get books, and I know that I always receive.
I got some books for my granddaughter's birthday in the room, waiting to go see her.
Mm-hmm, right, and
3 years old.
Right, and you got to start young. You got to give them the books. Got to give them the books early. And we're honored to have some people on now who are writers of children's books, and very much honored to have on the three writers of three children's books that we have on today. We have on Jax Lake, Muta El-Amin, and Farasha Green, and I got the name Farasha. Did I get the name right?
You did. Thank you.
All right. No, thank you. Now, honored to have all of you here today on having this conversation about the books that you have, and they're books to inspire children. And so I definitely want to have a conversation with you about what are the books to introduce your books here, to tell us what made you think about actually writing these books, and where we can get them. So just to jump right in, we'll start off. Well, we'll start off with Jax Lake. You have a children's book that you have out. I know that it is called "I Am Bigger and So Are You." Can you tell us about this book that you wrote? We're gonna share it with so people can see what the book is. But what is this book about? Why is it good for kids? Hello?
Ed had it in his background. He has so we've already been looking at it, Queen. So come on and talk about it.
She's muted. She's not muted. I don't know. I don't see her muted.
Yeah, I think Jax Lake, I think your connection. I think it's with the connection. So let's start off with Farasha Green. We'll start off with you, and we'll give Jack some time to get to work on the connection.
Sure. So this is my very first children's book. It's called Yaya Travels the World. It's about a young girl, age 7.5, who travels the world with the use of a magic passport. And essentially, Yaya is just an embodiment of a younger me. My nieces, I have 7 beautiful nieces. They call me Yaya. And so I kind of just drew inspiration from younger pictures of myself and sort of who I was as a little girl, very imaginative, very hungry for learning and geography and trivia and all sorts of things like that, and developed this character for the book.
So when you talk about Yaya Travels the World, like what is it that you want? Because the cover is so nice. We're going to show it in a few seconds. But the what made you think about even writing this book? Like you talk about inspiring your nieces, your 7 nieces, right?
7 nieces.
So what is this book about? What's Yaya doing, and why? What can we learn from her?
Sure. So I think to answer your first question, what inspired me or motivated me to write the book was just, again, drawing, recollections of myself as a child, how much I loved visiting the library, being read to, reading to other people. I just always had a huge library at home of all sorts of children's books, especially from Black authors. My mom was very intentional about that. I've always had a love for creative writing. And as I grew older and I got like really neck deep in my professional career, my background is in fashion, my workload would just be really intense. My schedule would really be consuming as a commuter into the city and in my role. And I needed a creative outlet. I needed something that I could kind of just fall back on to decompress and to just revisit other parts of myself that I felt I had been neglecting with all the work that I was doing. And so creative writing just kind of resurfaced. And I love to travel internationally. I love being around children. I've always kind of had an interest in participating in education, not so much in the capacity of a teacher, obviously, but just always just finding learning opportunities for any children that I was around. So I just kind of married everything together. And the book came about quite organically, and just the process itself was very therapeutic and enjoyable for me.
So where does Yaya travel? Where are some of the places in the world that she goes, and why did you choose some of those places?
Well, I made it a mission to sort of just look at a map and try to select a location from every continent to cover the entire world. Some of the locations are on my bucket list of places to go. Some of the destinations have since been crossed off my bucket list, which is great. So in North America, we have Hawaii, Jersey, that's where she starts in her hometown. Then Colombia, Peru, Antarctica. I kind of just go all the way around India, some European countries, Spain, France. So I really covered every continent.
Oh, that's excellent. That's excellent. And we have an author on.
Well, let me ask Farasha. You said you had a bucket list of places to go, and now some of them are crossed off. Are they crossed off because you have visited them yourself? Why are they crossed off?
Yeah, I've been able to travel to them.
Okay.
Some purposely, like, oh, this is in my book. And the more that I'm looking up reference pics and the more that I'm doing research on the location for accuracy, the more that I'm gaining an interest in it. So I kind of just casually look up a flight ticket. Other ones I just had on my list. They were, in rotation. And then I would realize after the fact, working on my manuscript, that I had actually accomplished that. So it was kind of just a combination of both. I didn't really set out on a mission to write a book particularly about the places that I had already traveled to or had intentions to travel to, but it came about that way naturally.
Now, we also have Muta El-Amin, who this is not the first time he's been on our show as an author. You wrote Monsters Under the Bed, and I loved when you came on our show before and you were talking about this book, and the pictures are just so beautiful. And it's about this little girl, a little Black girl, and that relationship. It was really good, man. It was a moving book. You're a very talented writer, and in terms of putting that together, you have a new book called Learning the ABCs. What is that book about, and what inspired you to write that?
All right. Hey, how's everybody doing? My name is Muta El-Amin. And learning the ABCs with Shuja Farmer is a collaborative effort with a local Black farmer in Newark, New Jersey. His name is Shuja Earl Godfrey. And he's a part of the plant-based. He's a part of the plant-based community. Mm-hmm. So I like to touch on issues that are pertinent to time and understanding that we all need to get a little bit healthier. We all need to figure out alternative methods to extend our life. And he basically gave me a lot of tools and a lot of information as far as co-authoring the book, so that we could come up with a learning tool to engage both youth and adults. So ABCs with Shuja Farmer is giving you so A is for aloe. Aloe gives you, I'm gonna go in the book, smooth skin, soft hair, cellulose. B is for basil. Basil gives you strong memory, healthy liver, less stress. And the list goes on, just plant-based remedies that we all can use to get a little bit healthier or when we have an ailment. But it also, what the first book did for me was it allowed me to delve back in the community. Since it was a bestseller, I used proceeds from that book to find people in the community to do more work. I actually started a community center with the proceeds from Monsters Under the Bed. Okay,
and again, I remember when you came on with it before the first time, and I remember thinking just really beautiful book, really beautiful story behind it. And I see with under Learning the ABCs, it's like you have a label, right? Like, so it's like so Monsters Under the Bed became your publishing company?
Yes, absolutely. I have a youth group called Entrepreneur Initiative. So the purpose of creating products is to create income, to create revenue streams, to create local wealth. And I'm realizing that teamwork makes the dream work. It makes more sense to build up other people inside my community as I take this trip. So I look to do a bunch of collaborative efforts, from this book to the community center to the youth program that I run there at the Courts Housing Projects. It's all about gearing our youth towards entrepreneurship. So that this is just one effort, one of the ways I do that.
Okay, and for this book, it seems like you are like, is there any history that you have with the reason why? Like, I know you're saying with health reasons, etc., but did a lot of your personal experiences with plants, etc., come into this? Like with plants and vegetables, and why you think that the different herbs, etc., are so important?
So like I said, with the proceeds from Monsters Under the Bed, I opened up a community center. The community center is a holistic wellness center. It's called Alkaline Express. It's located 373 South Orange Avenue, Newark, New Jersey. Me and a couple other co-founders, we're all young progressive adults that want to do things in our community to make it better. So it's a plant-based community, and being involved with that plant-based community, being one of the founding members, I learned a lot. I learned that there's a lot of things that we need in our body that some of the processed foods just aren't giving us, and we wonder why we're ill, because we're not eating right. Our health is deteriorating because we're not getting none of the nutrients that we get them. A lot of times we cook them out. A lot of times they just don't exist in that product, and we think that we're eating fruits, vegetables, but when they're put into certain types of elements, they're not even fruitful for you. There's no benefit to them. So being around these insightful group of young adults, they gave me information, and I pulled upon that information to create a project for all of us. So this is not just a me project. This is me. This is the young lady who illustrated the book, Teresa Wood. She's 24 years old. So she's an up-and-coming illustrator. I had the previous illustrator, who's a more experienced illustrator, David James, mentor her so that we could produce this book. I mentor Shuja so that we could produce this book. So it wasn't more so me drawing from my personal experience as it was the youth drawing from what they are into right now.
Okay. Well, no, thank you. I mean, that's important in terms of what you say, in terms of what you were doing.
And
Jonathan,
yeah.
Go ahead, John. I'm sorry.
No, Zaid, did you say that you knew the gentleman that he
Shuja,
mentioned?
yeah. Shuja is a young urban farmer. You know, he reminds me, when I had the New Black Panther Party in the area, half of my troops were teachers and the other half were vegans and vegetarians. I was so proud of how healthy they were, right? And how forward, and how that necessarily needs to be the future direction and orientation of our people's consciousness. Not just how pretty we are as African people, right? Or how funky we are as African people, but how originally, in our original African mind, right? Eating to live, right? Being in charge of and taking good care of the lands that we control, right? Cultivating those lands, honoring those lands as we honor our temple, right? And to see that young brother, and I'm old enough to be Shuja's grandfather almost, right? But Shuja was young, really trying to take a dive into that when folks are talking about other things and doing other things and dismissing something that was once upon a time very fundamental to how we roll as a people, right? So that's a real healthy collaborative process that you got going on there, Muta. So we all wanted to shout that out, and I wanted to shout out Shuja because I know that young man well. I'm very proud of him.
Yeah, I mean that's I like the idea of the collective, especially artists producing good stuff that's conscious and beautiful, right? Like the stuff, the works I remember seeing that first book, and I thought about that book for weeks. It was the artistry was just amazing. Now Jax, are you back? All right, now I'm unmuting you. Yes, so Jax, are you back?
Come on now.
Jax, you're back? We have you?
Yes.
Okay, great. So you have a book out called I Am Bigger and So Are You. What is this book about? What inspired you to write this book?
I Am Bigger, So Are You is a book rooted in emotional intelligence. It teaches children and families all about life skills and how to manage the adversities that come along in life. It teaches them how to handle stress, anger, decision-making, financial literacy, teaches them how to believe in themselves, work hard, have a firm work ethic, be kind to others. It talks about entrepreneurship. It talks about molestation and so many other little pieces that are nuggets to really empower children, but also to empower their families as well.
And you say life skills for the soul.
Yes.
You're a motivational speaker.
Yes.
And this book came out of that?
Yes, I actually developed a curriculum several years ago. I did do a lot of work working with people who have substance misuse issues and coaching them and working with a lot of children and families throughout the city of Newark and around the country. I realized that there's something that is truly, truly needed. So I developed a curriculum. I do workshops rooted in every section of my book dealing with emotional intelligence. And the book is very colorful, it's powerful, it's small little nuggets and affirmations teaching people to just simply believe in yourself and be a good person, be good people, be good children, parents, and talks about leadership because we need more leaders in our community. But also in order to be an effective leader, you also have to learn how to follow. So I teach that as well.
So you're saying you're talking about drug addiction and substance abuse within this. How do you translate that? I just saw a documentary on HBO called The Life of Crime, 1984 to 2020. And it was just so heartbreaking in terms of just seeing the effects of addiction over so much time and what that did to the people and their families. How is this translated to kids? Like, what does that mean when you're talking about a children's book?
So I'll give you an example. On the page that talks about not doing drugs, it says, make good choices, don't do drugs, so your dreams don't get swept under the rug. Drugs will make you feel icky and sick all over, so make sure you always remain clean and sober. It only takes one time to get you hooked, so don't even try it because it's not a good look. So it's very simple, but it's also very critical that our children understand it at a young age. And also so that their parents truly understand, and that it just bridges that divide between the children and the parents. It's like a multi-generational approach. So it's written clear and concise, but also is even reminding the parents, don't do it.
Okay, so that is now in terms of just like and what are some of the other things that you're focused on in terms of this book, in terms of like your inspiration for young people?
My inspiration, I saw throughout the city of Newark and so many other urban epicenters that people are really struggling. They want to know better. They want to do better, but sometimes they don't have the tools. It's like we all have a toolbox. And many times if you just have a hammer in your toolbox or a screwdriver, you can't build that house. So I made sure that I wrote a book that really teaches them how to utilize different tools. You can't handle every situation the same way. You have to finesse it. You have to try different tools, techniques, strategies, different methodologies to help get to the next level in life.
So all of you, when you're in that publishing process, how did you get to the point of like writing, publishing in terms of that process? And if you can give people who might want to publish a children's book, just briefly, like, what did you go through in order to bring your idea from just an idea in your head to life? Like, what are the practical things or advice that you would give people who may also want to bring their idea to life?
My process actually started a little over 4 years ago. I was working for the school district and I decided, you know what, these families, they need help now. There's no time for the red tape. There's no time for a long, lengthy process. I need to do what I can do. So I decided to step out on faith and I left my job. And when I left my job one day, maybe 7 months later, I was already working on a similar version of my book, but it was for adults. And one day I was in the kitchen with my kids and it just hit me, Jackie, turn this into a children's version. So I literally went upstairs within, 45 minutes, I wrote it. Before you know it, a whole year had gone by and the book was still kind of sitting in my notebook. I was busy working on other projects and building my brand. And then I said, you know what, it's time to turn this thing into a tangible book. And I said, I don't have time to wait for a publisher to pick me up. I'm going to take this into my own hands. I'm going to do research. I'm going to talk to people and see what I need to do to bring this whole project together. So I did the research, I did the work, I invested the money, and I did it. I became a vendor within several school districts. So I travel around, I do workshops, speaking at different schools, teaching them all of the skills and the curriculum that I've developed in this book.
So really, your motivational practice and the book that you published really work hand in hand.
Absolutely, yes. Yes.
And can our other guests speak to some of that process, right? Like, how do you get your idea from just an idea to actually published book? I thought that was, Jax, when you talked about like leaving your job, I thought that was powerful in and of itself. What are some of the process? What are some of the things you did, Muta El-Amin or Farasha Green?
All right, I'll go next.
Everybody's being polite, like who should jump in, right? It's my fault. I should have just picked somebody.
All right. For me, I'm not gonna overcomplicate the process because it's a simple process. Creating the idea and putting it down into a tangible product. Once you put it down into a tangible product, there manuscript, you need, if you're not the person that does the graphic design, and you can hire out to a graphic designer. Me, I chose to find somebody local in North, young guy by the name of David James and a young lady by the name of Teresa Woods, because I don't do art. Once you find a graphic designer for your artwork and you have manuscript, then it's all about just figuring out who you're gonna publish through. Some people wait for want to get picked up, and some people would like the process of self-publishing. Me, I prefer self-publishing. What I want everybody to understand that is when you self-publish, all of the responsibility is on you. So it's your responsibility to go to the libraries. It's your responsibility to answer the email. This is the hard part. Once you actually finish pushing the button, because nobody's going to leave reviews for people to pick a book up if you're not doing work. If you're not in tune with the school district, signing up to be vendors for the school district. Nobody's gonna. They're not gonna just happen to notice your book sitting in nowhere land. There's a bunch of books. The average author sells within 100 books. So what I tell anybody that wants to get into the business, any business, is that teamwork make a dream work. Understanding that it's a minimum cost to actually producing the book. The real cost is promoting the book, putting the groundwork down, trying to get sales to make it make sense. And that's what I would tell any author. Like, after the book is actually complete, that's when the real work starts. Marketing and promoting your product, getting it out there, getting it into these schools, getting it into the libraries, and everywhere books are sold.
You said, okay, I'm sorry, Farasha, did you want to respond?
I did. I think Jonathan muted me.
My fault. I muted everybody. My bad.
It's all good. The beginning stages of my creative process was definitely just a very uninterrupted flow of ideas. As they came to me, I didn't, put an end to them. So even if I was at the store or at the gym, it didn't matter. If something popped into my head, I would write it on a napkin or a Post-it or in my phone, in my memos. Like, as the ideas come to you. They just come whenever, and you have to be prepared to kind of just put them in your pocket really quickly to revisit them. I think that's really important, just to capitalize on that momentum and that inspiration when it comes, because writer's block can be very real too. So you really have to take advantage of when your mind is, when the wheels are turning. So once I just kind of got ideas down on a paper and gave it some structure and came up with a manuscript, I sought out a professional editor, which I'm a big proponent of. I definitely am in favor of sourcing an editor who can not only make sure that your line copy is accurate and precise, which is important to me, but also just conceptually make sure that the book is really reaching its full potential. And I'm grateful that my editor was able to kind of encourage me to build out some ideas, to develop some of the vision that I had without imposing on my original vision, but just, doing his job. That's what editors do, is help you just kind of make something go from good to great. So once my editor assisted with me getting the final manuscript, I sourced a professional illustrator. To Muta's point, I agree to definitely tap into other people's strengths and levels of expertise. It's nice to think that we can do everything as an independently published author, but if it's not in your wheelhouse, if it's not, your particular forte, then for sure sourcing professionals and people who you trust with your vision is really important. That's really it. I felt very confident about like the operational aspect of it, about the marketing and shipping and logistics and all of that, because that's what my background is in. So it kind of just, it falls very naturally into what I'm very familiar with from a professional standpoint. So I'm just enjoying a really healthy balance of like the creative part of it and the operational part of it now that I'm officially published.
So you said you grew up with a lot of children's authors growing up. Who were your favorite children's author? There is a Black children's book tradition, and that's what I'm trying to bring out. Y'all are younger authors, but some of us can remember some of those books from way back. I'm interested to see who you read as a child as you were growing up.
I'll be completely honest. I don't remember all of the authors by name. I can remember very vividly the bookstore that I would go to for the books, which was Tunde Dada on Main Street in Orange. They just had like a wealth of inventory of incredible children's books. My favorite children's author growing up actually wasn't African American. It was Roald Dahl. I thought that he was very imaginative, and I could like very vividly like picture all the scenery in the book and kind of create my own world. So that was my favorite children's book author. But as far as Black authors, I just would kind of just grab books and and read them. I never really paid too much attention to them by name, to be honest. I went more so on the visuals.
Oh, so thank you. Like I always love having these segments because in here we get introduced to local authors who are doing good stuff, and I think that I think more of your stories need to be told. I think people need to go out and buy your books. I think that this is in this season where people are looking at different gifts to get. I know that there are 3 gifts that should go to everybody who has kids that are of a certain age. So can you, before we end, can you tell everyone where they can purchase your book?
Sure. Currently, my book is available directly through my website, yayatravelstheworld.com. It's also available on walmart.com and barnesandnoble.com, and just recently got put on bookshop.org, which is an online platform that supports local bookstores. I'm brand new at this. I literally just announced the launch of my book, but in the pipeline for sure is some local brick and mortar stores as well. So you can be on the lookout for announcements on that by following me on Instagram, Yaya Travels the World, and also on Facebook, Yaya Travels the World.
Are all of your authors, are y'all familiar with the Source of Knowledge downtown Newark?
Yes.
Yes, they actually carry my book.
Okay, because I was going to say, because they have every children's, they have a children's display. Okay. All right.
Sure.
Shout out to Messiah and Patrice.
Yes.
And Dexter.
Okay.
And
Poor Dexter.
and so Muta and Jax, where can they get your books? Where can they find your books?
Jax, where can they find your books?
You can find my books. You can find my books on at Amazon, Barnes and Noble, but I would prefer you source locally, go to Source of Knowledge. They carry both books. Or you can reach out to me personally, 973-836-2380. Once again, that is 973-836-2380. And I want y'all to know that the money that I receive from these book projects, it goes directly into community projects. So the first book, I founded a community center. This next, it's the
I'm
whole.
sorry,
It's a
Muta, say
holistic
that
wealth
number
center.
one. Say that number one more time so I can put it in the comments. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I couldn't get it either. Go ahead.
973-836-2380. And it's two books. ABCs with Shuja Farmer, Learning the ABCs with Shuja Farmer, and Monsters Under the Bed, which is the first bestseller. Sold over 10,000 copies. Over 10,000 copies. Local book and Source of Knowledge has personally sold over 300 of these books.
Go ahead, sir.
What I want to say that is with the proceeds from my book. So the first book, it founded the Alkaline Express. That's a community center in Newark that gives out free water, free alkaline water. This book, I want to found another community center, a training center. So I teach CDL courses. I got a couple people who are professionals who do other things like plumbing, electrician. So we got local professionals that want to give back to the community and want to offer services so that we build our community up. So, but we need to invest in us. We need to put our resources into people and industries that are actually doing the work in the community.
Yeah, yes, and so and you gave us the different places where we can get your book, right? All right,
yes,
cool.
I did. I say it again.
Source of Knowledge.
Go to Source of Knowledge. That's your first one. Source of Knowledge bookstore. Masani, Patrice, them are my mentors. Dex, that's the big homie, right?
All right, cool. So
if you can't
we're
make
wrapping
it
this
there.
up. So just for get it. Source of Knowledge. Where else? Source of Knowledge.
Amazon. That's why I put Amazon, Barnes and Noble,
everywhere
books are sold. If you go to eBay and type in Monsters Under the Bed, you're gonna find Monsters Under the Bed. Every single online platform you can find it.
All right, cool. And
I would
Jack,
suggest
where
to
can we
viewers
get your
to
book?
search bookfinder.com. All the retailers should come up on bookfinder.com as a directory.
Bookfinder.com as well?
Mhm.
All right,
Well,
cool.
that's like a directory. So his book will pop up or our books will pop up and it'll show pretty much all the retailers where it's available.
All right, cool. And Jax, is there any special place that people should go first for you?
Yes, once again, Source of Knowledge, or you can also go onto my website, jaxlake.com, JAXLAKE.com. You can also order the book on Amazon. If you would like your own autographed copy for the holidays or whenever, feel free to text 973-223-9998. Once again, 973-223-9998. And just text I am bigger, and I can send you an autographed copy of the book for the holiday season or whenever you like.
So thank you so much. We appreciate having you all on, and we definitely have to have you back again and let us know how these projects are going.
Thank you so much.
The question, Jonathan. The question, Jonathan.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And we could have DJ Rhino actually ask the question as a perfect segue, as we usually do, right? So DJ Rhino. Our DJ, welcome. All right, are you on? All right, so we cannot.
We can't hear him.
Yeah, we can't hear you. So Donna, ask the question.
I'm gonna let Zaid answer because I'm typing the information for Jax. So Jax,
Yes.
Muta and Farasha. This is a hip hop political show. So the question we ask all of our guests is, what are you listening to? What hip hop artist inspires you, either individual or group? And we're going to start with Jax. Who are you listening to now?
Oh my gosh. I always listen to Lauryn Hill, actually. Lauryn Hill, obviously, straight from North, Lords of the Underground, Redman. I listen to everybody, but I definitely support my North natives first.
Okay. Muta El-Amin?
All right. Right now, currently, I'm listening to a few local artists. Radio 973, that's one of them. He's an artist / producer out of North. He does a lot of good work. Billy Rose, he's another dope MC out of North New Jersey that's doing a lot of good work. Young brother from Bradley Court, 90 Racks. His music is a little bit explicit, but I'm with promoting my youth, and he's a dope youth doing dope things.
Farasha?
I've been listening to a lot of R&B lately, but I recently have been diving into the Bruise soundtrack from the new movie directed by Halle Berry, which was filmed in Newark. It's a women-led production, all women artists, female rappers, and I've been enjoying that.
All right. So thank you so much.
Wait, I'm sorry, Farasha. That's from the movie where she was a fighter.
A fighter, yep.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, really good
on
movie.
Netflix.
It was violent, though, but okay.
No, really good. Really good.
It's a cool storyline.
It really is.
And so
also, you can catch me on IG. If anyone goes to IG, I'm at Skills for the Soul. SKILLS for FOR the Soul SOUL. Skills for the Soul.
And so thank you so much for coming out. We definitely have to have you back on the show again to talk about current projects, other things you're doing. All of you are very dynamic people who do a lot of good stuff. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you. Happy holidays to you all.
Happy holidays.
Thank you very much. Can I tell all the authors, let's get together and do an event together, because we come together, we can move things. Separate, we only want to dig into our own audience. But if we come together, we can actually create a movement. Let's be the Wu-Tang of this thing.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Right. That's one of the reasons why I love having you all together. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Have a good day, buddy.
Have a good night.
Good segment. Very good.
All right. So DJ, what's going on?
What's good?
All right, cool. So I wanted to come on for that book segment because I just like the idea of children's books. But let me know what's going on, DJ Rhino. What's new? And
Rhino will get back in the studio. I don't think you got to say on that.
It's because I'm doing double duty right now. So I'm actually doing two things at one time. So I just wanted to come on here and get back to some students. So I will talk to you. I will say what's up, and I'll probably dip out. So what's going on, DJ?
Well, the biggest thing right now in hip hop right now is what you see on my shirt, Video Music Box, man. Uncle Ralph McDaniels and Queensbridge's Nasir Jones came together and put together a documentary about a legendary music video show that took place in New York City and throughout the tri-state area. And, just like the mixtapes used to just get spread all over the place, so did the videotapes. Video Music Box. Video Music Box was a music video show that took place on a cable station in New York City, Channel 31, which it was kind of at any other point in time, it was kind of a raunchy station. A lot of those stations were kind of raunchy and had other kind of programs on there. But Ralph McDaniels was able to get himself spotted in one of those slots on Channel 31, where he was able to, it started off where he was just being an announcer and playing videos and stuff. And then he realized that, there were being videos sent that were just music videos that weren't being played. And this was separate from the stuff that he was handling at the time while he had that job. So he had an idea to just start his own show where he would be showing these videos, these music videos. So him and his partner, the Vid Kid, and a couple other people, they got together and created this music video show called Video Music Box. And what was so great for Ralph McDaniels was that since people like MTV, who were just really blowing up at that time in the early 80s, since MTV really wasn't trying, because Ralph said he tried to take his idea to MTV and they weren't trying to mess with him. They didn't think it was going to work. So that gave Ralph an avenue for himself to open up the doors to all of these music artists, as well as local artists, black artists, who had videos, who had music videos and something to share with the public. He opened the door for that. He gave them an avenue where he would share people's art and their craft, you know what I'm saying, putting their music videos out there. So you have to think, like, if MTV was the only ones that were putting out music videos and nobody else was really doing it like that, really big, and nobody else wanted to do what he was doing, what he was offering, really Ralph was the man. He was the man, and he to this day, Ralph is Uncle Ralph. And Video Music Box was a legendary music video show that Ralph created, where he put on so many artists from the beginnings of their careers, legendary, iconic artists that we know of today. He was there at the very, very kickoff of their careers, and helped, show the world, help the world follow these artists throughout their careers. You know what I'm saying? Just through his show. And he also he opened up a door for activists who were doing things locally, for politicians who were doing things locally, for people who were going through certain crises in the neighborhood. He opened the door for these people to have a word and to say something. And then he would invite pop artists to come in and speak on these subjects as well, so that it wasn't like separated. You had the hip hop artists speaking on certain events that took place in our neighborhoods and our communities. You know what I'm saying? So he really brought everything together, and he was the man to catapult it all. You know what I'm saying? And MTV, they jumped on the bandwagon like maybe 2 years later and created Yo MTV Raps, but was nothing like Video Music Box, man. And I'm going to tell you, last Friday, I got off a little early because I said that I was going to watch the show. I was going to watch the documentary. I'm going to tell you, I teared up. My wife can tell you, I teared up through that whole documentary, because it was like seeing my life flash before my eyes. You know what I'm saying? Like, we watched these people's careers. We watched these people's lives, grow before our eyes. A lot of these moments I was there. You know what I mean? So it was my life. And so, yeah, I teared up, man. It was emotional. It was a beautiful thing to watch. And since the documentary, Ralph has been on this. He's been on this tour now of just mad interviews, because so many people have gravitated to this documentary. It's called You're Watching Video Music Box. It's on Showtime. You can watch it now. Really, it's a real classic piece of hip hop culture and just music culture and video culture all in one. You know what I mean? It's a beautiful thing. Definitely go try to check it out, man. Again, it's directed by Nas. Nas was he was one of the artists that Ralph McDaniels helped put on when Nas was a young guy coming up. Ralph did this whole special on Nas, which is really like a thing that's like a promotional piece that's usually sent out to the different record companies or whatever. Normally this stuff doesn't get put on TV or on screen, but Ralph, instead of just promoting it, he played it on his video show, and it was huge for Nas. It was huge for his career, starting off. So this was kind of like Nas giving back. You know what I mean? So Nas was giving back to Ralph McDaniels and Video Music Box, man, and it was just beautiful, man, to see the conversation between those two as well. It was good, man. It was real emotional for me, man. We're talking about decades of watching, music videos, and it wasn't just hip hop videos. Ralph was looking out for punk rock, people that weren't getting their play, R&B that wasn't getting play on MTV, black artists and punk artists and Caribbean artists that weren't getting their videos played anywhere. Ralph McDaniels opened that door. So we got to really, really hands down salute the king of music videos, man. And for us, for people, and that's Uncle Ralph McDaniels.
I always wanted to. If I had 20 years back, I would have gone into film, and that's one of the things that the jazz community doesn't do. And jazz is built for jazz is very visual music, right?
Yeah.
And then our greatest artists were visual artists, like the great Duke Ellington, for example.
Yes.
Right? So yeah, I'm so feeling that, right? I'm so feeling that. I'm glad you lifted that up. Glad you lifted that up. Now you had mentioned something on Instagram, and I spent 2 minutes on Instagram, a week, because I really don't even know how to work Instagram yet.
Mm-hmm.
When I do, look out though, because I'm coming with my Malcolm X page, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you chomping at the bit to do something else. What you getting ready to do?
I'm getting ready to go back into recording, man. I'm trying to get my studio back up and running, and because I got some family, man. They've been on my back, man. They be like, look, man, I'm ready to record. I'm ready to do some stuff. You're the only one I trust. You're the only one that had that, So, I had to take a hiatus for a while and get my family thing right, get my head right, and I'm still trying. I still got some cleaning up to do, but yeah, the recording is back on, and I'm definitely going to be bringing in some heads that got something to say. We're going to do this, and because that was the whole point of hip hop, man, for us, is that we needed an avenue to say it to be sick to the people. You know what I'm saying? Like that was so important for us, man. And when hip hop showed itself to be that avenue for us, man, that's why it blew up the way it did. When Melly Mel and Duke Booty put out the message.
That's right.
That was huge, man. It was like, wow, we can talk about what
that
we
was the
see
breakout. That was the breakout for the art. That's right.
And how long was that video? That video had to be like 10 minutes long, wasn't it? That video was 10 minutes long.
What, for the message?
Least. Yes.
No, for the message.
Least.
No, the message. No, the message was a regular length. The long when you're thinking about is Sugar Hill, the Rapper's Delight. That one was like 15 minutes. Yeah.
But the message was long too.
Yeah.
Also, last week, did anybody get a chance to watch Annie live with Taraji Henson? Did anybody?
I still didn't get to see that. I know you brought it up last week. I still haven't gotten to see that yet.
Yeah.
I like she's a Howard girl.
Yeah, and just to see her step out, and it was and Harry Connick Jr. There was a very diverse audience, but a young girl who's Lillian seen it. It was really, really good. Taraji, if you get a chance, it is on YouTube, and go back and watch it. Just to see her step out of, from the film to and I don't know if she's done theater before, but it was really good. It was very diverse, but it was a really good. It was really good. What he said was nice. And going back to the Video Music Box, Chairman Ham said that he used to watch Video Music Box on Saturdays.
But that's what I'm saying, man. I remember. Like I personally have stacks of videos, VHS tapes of when I used to record these videos off of Video Music Box. And I remember there would be segments of activists, rappers, politicians. It'll be after somebody was senselessly killed, or some type of something happened with the police, and we would have Ralph would have these moments, these segments on his show where he would get all of these people together to talk about these things. You know what I mean? To discuss what can be the solutions. You know what I'm saying? How do we work on solutions from here on? You know what I mean? And this is the kind of thing that was going on Ralph's show. All growing up, man, from my preteens to my teens to my 20s, this was what Ralph McDaniels and Video Music Box offered to the people. That's huge, man. That's huge. You know what I mean? And that's why it was so emotional to watch this documentary and see some of that footage, because I'm like, oh, man, I got that footage on tape. Like, I got that. I remember. Well, I was there. I remember that. It's huge, man. Big ups to Uncle Ralph, man. Big ups to Uncle Ralph. Another big, huge success.
I want you to see. You see this. Chairman said Ralph used to have conscious hip hop artists like X-Clan on Video Music Box.
Let me tell you, X-Clan. Ralph McDaniels was putting X-Clan clips of X-Clan speaking on his show before they were even putting records out. People didn't even know who X-Clan was musically. Right. We used to just see clips in between the videos. We'll see the X-Clan. They'll be lined up, and you see, Brother Professor X, and he'll say what he says, and they'll make a certain statement or whatever, and they end it with the, this is protected by the red, the black, the green.
Green, that's right.
Yeah, and it was like, wow, we used to see that in between the videos and be like, yo, who's that? Who's that? And then when they finally came out in 1990 with their album and with Funkin' Lessons and all of that, it was like, oh, these are the dudes that we used to see in between the videos talking about.
Straight out of Brooklyn.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Carson,
big ups to Brother Jay. Rest in
Carson.
peace. Rest in peace. Yes. Yes. Professor X. Yeah. And Sonny Carson. And Sugar Shaft. DJ Sugar Shaft. That was their DJ.
Yeah.
So rest in peace to all those brothers. But yeah, Ralph McDaniels, he was the first one to even introduce X-Clan to the world before they even had their music out. So that was huge. That was huge.
Of course, X-Clan did a whole lot of sampling of a whole lot of P-Funk.
Oh man, yeah, that album was P-Funk all over.
Wow, but
P-Funk all over that album. yeah, but it was beautiful, man. I love that album. That whole album was tough. That was a tough album. Had a lot of Last Poet stuff on there too.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. But also congratulations to the GOAT, the one who created the whole acronym GOAT, greatest of all time, LL Cool J, another Queens legend. He was just honored a statue in Queens, in Corona Park in Queens. There's a statue of LL Cool J with the famous bell can go on with the radio in front of him. If you go to Corona Park, you'll see it. It's LL Cool J right there in the smack middle of Queens.
Something like that, you can't miss.
Yeah, man. It's like, wow, man. This is where hip hop's going. I mean, there's streets named after people in hip hop now. The streets named after hip hop now. Hip hop is growing, man. Hip hop is still growing to be the huge phenomenon that it's grown to be. And I'm talking about, and we're not even talking about, when I make that statement, I'm excluding any of the corrupt stuff that's going on now through the corporations and the media. I'm talking about the culture. When we talk about the culture,
right,
the culture of hip hop and what it always stood for, what it has always meant, and what it was for in the beginning, was for growth and development and things like that. You know what I mean? It's just good to see things like, LL being honored, because LL has grown to do some great things, man. Everything that he's doing right now with Rock the Bells is huge for hip hop, huge for the culture, huge for the pioneers in hip hop. He's giving jobs to the pioneers in hip hop. You know what I'm saying? And not just giving them jobs, but giving them their own place in the Rock the Bells world. You know what I'm saying? And so he's really looking out for his elders
and shout out to LL and and Mary and all of them for diversifying their brands. I know LL's wife and Mary, they have a jewelry line. LL has a radio show on Sirius XM, and there are other things, but I like the idea of them diversifying, that they're not putting themselves in a little box and just staying there. They have gotten outside of the box and they're growing. They're doing, like you said, DJ Rhinos, they're opening up the doors for other people as well, because I know some of the when I'm in the car and I'm listening to Sirius XM, some of the people who are, I guess you would call them VJs on the LL Cool J, he has a West Coast artist on there doing some of the radio show and everything. So it's a good, he's doing.
Because I listen on Sundays, I believe, Sunday nights. I listen to Bun B. He's from the South, from Texas. He represents Houston, and I listen to Bun B's show every Sunday night, man, coming from work. So. Yeah, and the reason why I like listening to Bun B, because it's the Southern culture. You don't get that up north, so it's something that I get to hear that's different from the life that I live up here. You know what I'm saying, up north. So, and it's still hip hop. You know what I mean? So you're still getting that that hip hop culture, but just getting it from a different perspective. And that's how it was when when the West Coast first blew up. We got to hear what life was out in the West Coast, because we didn't know. All we knew was New York. You know what I mean? So. Yeah, so definitely, man. Big ups to LL and the whole Rock the Bells empire right now. On another note, I gotta say, this is the hard one. I hate having to say another one. Rest in peace. There's a brother coming out of Compton. He was a rapper coming out of Compton. His name was Slim 400. I'm not really familiar with his music and stuff like that, but unfortunately, there's another brother that was killed by in his own community, you know what I'm saying? So we lost another one. Rest in peace Slim 400. This is right off of the back of losing Young Dolph in Memphis. So, you know, it's still going on out here, y'all. You know, we still
Yeah, it is.
got some cleaning up to do within ourselves, with communities, man. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot we got to do to clean up, man. But rest in peace to the families of Slim 400 and Young Dolph. Also, I want to say big heartfelt condolences to the brother Nick Cannon, man. Nick Cannon just lost his
child.
Lost his youngest son. Yeah, lost his youngest child. His son was 5 months old. His son Zen, to brain cancer. And that's so hard, man. When you that's hard, bro. Like when I teared up when I heard the news, man, and you know I heard the clip of when he took the news to his show. You know he has this he has a new talk show, and he took the news to his show. He sat there and broke the news on national TV, man. And let the world know what was going on, man. And that was heartbreaking to hear, man. And he was talking about how he was putting up a fight, and there was at one point there was some hope. He was thinking he was going to pull out of it, man, and things just ended up getting worse. Rest in peace, Zen, and my condolences, man. My heartfelt condolences to Nick Cannon and his family. Yeah. We about to. It's 9 o'clock.
So it's about. So we got.
Let's wrap it up on this one.
Okay.
Travis Scott. We talked about Travis Scott. So yes, he was hit with 11 charges. 11 charges of what took place at the Astral World. Right now, though, and I know me and Ed were talking before about what took place as far as the paperwork, the contracts that were signed, and all of that.
Right.
What it seems to me that. I don't know, his Travis Scott's legal team is basically telling the courts that he is not legally liable.
But Rhino, because we at 9 o'clock, so let's not brush over this quick. Let's hold it for next week because we also want to talk about Jussie Smollett. So let's talk about both of them next week because I'm
not going to keep it too long. I just want to say that he's basically what they're doing is they're trying to they're making a request to get pulled out of the case because they're saying that he's not legally liable for the allegations that the charges that are on towards him, because there's also other companies, Live Nation and a couple of other companies that are involved.
They're scapegoating. Yeah.
So it's going to be a lot. So that's the deal. But that's it for hip hop. Make sure you check me out tomorrow, 3 p.m. Twitch.tv, Rhino CMZ for the Shake Up.
Ride.
All right.
Zaid, any announcements?
Yes, tomorrow. We had Cam Howard on a few weeks ago on reparations. There's a reparations town hall going on right now in Evanston, Illinois. Reparations is making moves on the local front. Tomorrow we in the streets for Mumia, 1 o'clock. The Octavius Callis statue right off City Hall, 1 o'clock. All roads lead to Philly for Mumia. 40 years in captivity, time to bring him on.
Okay, we want to thank all of our guests and thank everybody for coming out. And we will see everybody next Friday, same time, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Zaid, you want to thank all of our guests because I was in and out.
But you know most of them. It was a loaded show. Loaded show. Cuqui Rivera, Nafeesah Goldsmith from New Jersey Prison Watch. Of course, Conrad, a regular from the vote, Reverend Conrad Tiller, right? Our guest, the artist Jax Lake, Muta El-Amin, and what's the daughter's name? Farasha. What's her last name?
I can't. Zarasha. I can't.
Zarasha. They were all killing it. Right. They were all killing it. Get their books. We put it up in the chat. The book is Yaya Travels the World.
Yes.
Right? I remember the book title and didn't get daughter's last name. But loaded show as always. We'll be back next week. Same time, same place, same space in the black. We'll see you in the whirlwind and you don't stop.
Peace.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.